There's one more second. All right. Welcome to Office Hours. This is our weekly AMA live stream where I stream to Twitch and to YouTube. And you can ask your questions about lore, updates, anything you want. But I also kind of do some kind of housekeeping and such like that. Give me a moment. All right. Got that ready. Got this ready. All right. And here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Office Hours. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astro Pub, your moderator on Captain's Table, and your professor, Galactic Historian. How y'all doing? All right, let me change some stuff here. Go to, there we go. Yeah, everything should be working. We're good to go. So we started a little bit late. Cam had to go pick up the last of our furniture we purchased. So here's my saga of the last week. So I kind of mentioned to Cam that I wanted to finally kind of start settling in fully in the house. And the one major thing we were missing was a dining room table. Cam got a promotion in her job, and I got a couple of bonuses for not quitting, which is nice. I also need to shave really badly. But, so I was like, hey, we've got like 1,800 more than we normally do. Let's go buy a dining room table, which are expensive, obviously, but they're not bad. You know, we have space for it. You haven't put it in there. So Cam agreed and went out and bought a dining room table for about $1,000, a little over $1,000. It wasn't too bad. They get kind of expensive though. Exactly what we needed. We were good. We were happy. Literally the day we get back from buying it, the hour we got back, our washer and dryer broke. So it's like, oh, well, there's another $1,000 we have to spend on that too. So, over the last couple of days, I have been accepting getting our chair or the table kind of delivered and all the chairs set up, and then today the new washer and dryer finally showed up, and so we spent, you know, when Cam got home from work, we just spent like an hour setting up the washer and dryer to make sure it worked. So yeah, it's not the end of the world, you know. Cam literally has just got a promotion and she got a bonus before she got the promotion, so she's getting a raise as well, so we'll be fine. Kaniak, thank you so much for that 5 gift bomb there, my friend. Let me get this up, running. Copy. Create. Paste. Copy. All right, so here's what the plan is for this week. Tomorrow we're going to be doing some multi-crew defense team stuff again. So if you want to join us playing with viewers, we'll be hopping into big ships and go and fight stuff. PTU if the game isn't live, or live if it's live, if 314 goes live. Saturday we're going to be doing again some more multi-crew stream stuff, because we have multi-crew stream on because we don't have anything on Sunday, or we don't have anything on Saturday. We're going to be doing a one-shot next week. So I'll talk with, I got to talk with people about what we're going to be doing and that kind of stuff. But what time? Around this time, Diablos. Probably about an hour before now. Tomorrow, for Friday. Hot tub stream when I can get the damn a patio built. That'll be the next big addition to the house, is a patio, a backyard patio. And I'll buy a hot tub then. Man, anything that's big and multi-crew just deletes people now. Did I see the ISC? I did. You changed my tie. Change unnerves me. This is the tie I always wear with this shirt. But yeah, now I have a brand new washer and dryer. So like literally everything in the house is less than, I want to say 6 years old now. Even the house was built 7 years ago or 6 years ago, 2016. Yeah, about that. So just when I thought responsible and sleep, Paul's going to be talking about rave turtles. Yes, I am. We'll be talking about here in a bit. Murphy's Law in full effect. Yep. Fun story about Murphy's Law. I found out that Murphy's Law is an actual thing that was invented during ejection seat testing for the U.S. Air Force. Some guy, long story short, he became a doctor because a childhood close friend of his died while he was attending to them. He was a teacher, then he decided, I'm going to be a doctor. So he ended up going to get his medical degree at Austin, UT Austin. And he, then World War II broke out and he went off to go serve as a flight surgeon for the Air Force. And when he got back, he continued to because his original like passion was biology. So, or something like that. So he came back and was doing research in biology and eventually managed to get roped into helping out with the ejection seats, because the theory was that humans couldn't stand more than 38 Gs. So, an ejection seat would just break every bone in someone's body and kill them. So he was just like, no, that does not sound correct. Where did you get your medical degree? I'm an engineer. That's why this does not sound correct. So he did a bunch of research, and he decided, they did some testing, and he's finally like, all right, cool. Strap me in. I'm the one who's going to test this. And he repeatedly beat the shit out of his body by testing these ejection seats on rocket sleds, over and over and over again. His superior officers told him to not do it, and he just ignored them and did it anyways. And eventually getting the fastest land speed record, and going on a rocket sled that went, it was faster than, it was like over 350 miles an hour. And it stopped. When it stopped, they went from 350 miles to 0 in like seconds. He suffered something like 40 Gs of deceleration and survived. But funny story was, that whole thing happened. A guy by the name of Murphy, who was a engineer who was doing accelerometer tests for NASA or something like NASA's progenitor, got roped into the project because he knew this other doctor. And so he brought him in to use some of his tech that he had to help with the testing for the test dummies. And essentially what happened was someone fucked up on the test dummies, and the accelerometers didn't function properly, or the G meters didn't function properly. And that eventually created a law that based off of that, because it was an expensive test, that anything that could go wrong would go wrong. And so they started calling that Murphy's Law on there as a means of double check. Always double check and triple check. Redundancy, which is, what would come to define aeronautic engineering is redundancy, because of, not necessarily just because, but as part of Murphy. So, and another fun fact, that guy who did all of those crazy testing, he ended up going on whistle stop tours to talk about his experiences, because it was this big, like, fastest man in the world is on land is American. He would always do these interviews, and then at the end of these interviews, he would say, like, hey, maybe we should what would save more lives on a day-to-day basis? Not jetpacks or not ejection seats, but seatbelts. And he was one of the first people to promote the use of seatbelts and help to design and safety measures for automobiles. Because, as he pointed out, because he was a doctor, he pointed out to superior officers, because he was a doctor for people like Chuck Yeager and Neil Armstrong and those guys when they were testers. He pointed out, like, we lose more pilots to traffic accidents than we do to crashes. If we could force them all to wear seatbelts while they're in their cars, we'd probably save their lives. So it's a weird, like, this dude was all over the place. Cool story I found out. But anyways, and then there's going to be that comment down below that says he starts talking about Star Citizen at 18 minutes 33 seconds. Fuck you, I'm gonna delete it. Who did this guy? The guys who did this testing were kind of insane. Yeah. Another wholesome story is that doctor also did checkups and medical procedures for the families of test pilots, even though the families of test pilots were the military refused to give them medical insurance. So he would just do it anyways. He went on the side and did it, and took care of the kids and stuff like that when they were sick, and kids and wives of these test pilots. So he became very well known in the test pilot community. Seatbelts and Star Citizen win. It was funny because, turning back to Star Citizen, I saw there was a big discussion between a bunch of people about the G acceleration in Star Citizen and what would, and that it was unrealistic. And some people said, it is realistic. Some people said, it's not realistic. You can't survive that many Gs or whatever. So when that was happening, this popped up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, No problem, FX. Nyx is looking beautiful. It is. Couple things. First off, I'm very happy with the ISC. It's exactly what I was hoping for. I've said for years that if CIG devs, if I ever got CIG devs to come onto the captain's table, I wouldn't talk a damn thing about Star Citizen, or I would moderately. I would talk about Star Citizen, but mostly I'd talk about, hey, Jay Lee, what other project did you? Jared, what other things did you do before all of this? John Crew, what projects did you work on before all of this? Those sorts of things, like where did you work on? Where do you get your inspiration? How do you, what's your method? Thoughts on the industry, those sorts of things. So, because I think there's a lot more of information that you can glean from someone's past about the current project that they're working on than anything they'll tell you directly. You can get to learn a little bit more about their methods, about their mentality, their work ethic.
I'm pilot.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Drake's never heard of Murphy. No. The issue with G's is prolonged. If you're pulling instantaneous to 15G, you'll be better off than you're stuck with a 7G pull for an extended period of time. Yeah. Yeah, the argument is kind of weird because you have artificial gravity. So you wouldn't feel the effects of G's anyways. But they also want to put G's in cockpits and stuff like that. So they got to figure something out. How do I feel about cloning? It's stupid. It's not really complete bodily destruction. Cloning is more about death. I mean, I get the purpose. The concept is, when you die, you die, and when you come back, you're a clone. And it works as a game element because it essentially punishes death, or makes you not punishes. Punishes is the wrong word. I constantly use it. It gives death and life a little bit more meaning. So you have to kind of think about what you do, because if you die, it's going to matter a lot more than you think. Yeah, but the problem becomes it's a dual thing. First off, immersion Chris Roberts is very much about an immersion kind of thing. And second of all, it works for the mechanic that they want to push. Now, because they want you to they want to force you to be more worried about getting medical attention than about just saying, I'm going to take the Suicide Express and just do things. I think it doesn't work in the lore that they built it in, because they explicitly banned it in the lore, and now they have to figure out a way of getting around it, and they have to think of some way of making the clones make sense and have a limited lifespan, limited numbers, which they have been absolutely fucking up on as of late. So how has the influx of ED players affected Star Citizen as a whole? More people is always better. The reality is that those people will come in here for the novelty, and most of them, I said this when we talked to the elite commanders. I think a lot of elite commanders are going to go back to elite when they fix some of those issues. Not all of them, but a lot of them will. Just because it was a bad time, and a lot of them were really hyped for Odyssey, and ended up not being a good thing. Agreed on cloning is stupid. As far as the artificial gravity goes, if you have turned it on its side, that's your propulsion. That's true. That's the problem is that Star Citizen is trying to hit a middle ground between fantasy-ish, where you can just fuck it, but also be a little bit more the space is trying to kill you kind of situation. Everything is there to kill you. You have to survive it. So still, alpha retcons are fine at this. Fine now. Yeah, no, it's fine to do retcons. It's just the retcon so far is dumb. It borders on problematic, because it's essentially like, oh, hey, you have any kind of mental disability or defect, we're going to euthanize you. It's some dark shit in the lore, and it would make sense if there was some sort of message for it, but the purpose of it isn't to portray a message. It's just a respawn mechanic. They're just trying to make that work. Yeah, so you have a genetic, or you have a degenerative disease, you don't deserve to live. No, the messages are pretty fucking dark. They don't necessarily want Star Wars. They want a mixture of Star Wars, Firefly, The Expanse, Star Trek, and other things. I think actually the sweet spot, the one they're actually going for, is Firefly, because they've got artificial gravity in Firefly. They have space is still very rough, but they don't really have to worry about anything but fuel. They're hitting for the Firefly experience. That's exactly what they're going for. Which, makes sense, because it works along the lines of Aliens and Blade Runner, which is what the inspiration for Star Citizen's universe was in the first place. Please don't delete me. I'm going to delete you. We started talking about at 1833. I demand space fencing. I want freaking melee attacks too. Gosh, how do I put this? I can fix their cloning issue pretty easily. Brain patterns. It's a Star Trek reason, but it's hey, for some reason, there's something that we don't understand about the cloning technology, where after a certain amount of time, the trauma of being reborn into your body, into a new body, experiencing all of experiencing death and then being reborn will cause your brain to slowly degenerate. And you're going to eventually not be able to clone anymore because your brain patterns won't slap. You know, won't will just stop working. Just won't map on anymore. The problem that altered carbon is you have a stack that you can pull and you kind of redo those sorts of things. I don't think CIG is going to do like that. They're just going to hand wave the fact that you have your brain back up, that kind of stuff. So I do want sword fights as well. And you know, there's some good storytelling elements in that. So you move away from genetic issues and more just there's a problem with the human brain. It can't be transferred. Human consciousness can't be transferred from brain to brain so much. So, and the way you would do that, at least I would do it in gameplay, is the more you die, the longer your convalescence time after death would be until you know that the next time you die, you're going to be dead, the permadead, which would be like, say, the convalescence time is 10 minutes when you first start off with, and every single time up to like 30 minutes, you add an additional minute or 2 minutes or whatever to that convalescence time. So the player can actually experience, fuck, I'm about to die, like the final death, the permadeath here. And then this next time I die, I gotta stop. I gotta, figure out a way to kind of add more lives to myself or whatever. But also you can play around with the idea of, that the only people who have this access to this tech are citizens. So you have to have served in the military. So it's part of that kind of process. Do I think the helmet HUD view restriction is coming back at some point? Probably not. It wasn't a very good idea in the first place. It's likely that we're going to see more stamina punishments in the future, just because stamina is going to start impacting your health a lot more. Would I increase price each time? That could work too. There needs to be some sort of like visible way that the player can know that I'm going to, I'm getting close to dying. Kai, thank you so much for gifting that sub to Chody and to Fledger. Welcome, y'all. CitizenCon do have to have served in the military. They would have gotten it in other ways. Citizens do not. Yeah, that's true. But they haven't decided that yet. Yeah. They could have done it in other ways. But the vast majority is military. Like the people who are getting citizenship for not serving the military, they loaded as fuck. They're not just average person picking up garbage for the Empire. No, they're like rich people. they're the sons and daughters of very, very, very wealthy people. They're the Hurstons who didn't go off to fight because they didn't have to. Yes. But that would also solve some of the problems you have with lore, which is cloning is illegal. If cloning is illegal, only legal to clone one at a time, why wouldn't I just clone myself an army and then do that, if I was a pirate? But if it was physically impossible to do so because it just wouldn't take, or it would literally cause you to like lose lives. So if you copied yourself 10 times, well then you're almost dead because you have 10 different yous, but those are your lives because it can only be copied so many times because of brain pattern issues, that kind of thing. What do you think? What would you think of your character getting more sick? That's what I said. Every time that they get cloned, they have longer convalescence time, longer time when they're sick. Like they have a reduced. For those of you who don't know, one of my theories and my arguments is that what is it called? called something, and I'm blanking on it. Death of a Spaceman. That Death of a Spaceman will punish people, not punish, I keep using that word, will give consequences for people who die. And that consequence will be you have some sort of respawn sickness, some sort of debuff on your character for a certain amount of time every time you have to get recloned into a new body. Which means that you are not punished, but you're experiencing the consequences of not valuing your own life or not planning properly. So, but the problem is, the permadeath is lose all your rep. You don't lose all your rep if you just get cloned, just because you're still there. Cloning could be extremely expensive, not something an average pirate doctor could afford. The problem about that then is players who are playing pirates don't have the ability to respawn, so they insta die, which isn't fun. So you need to find some way that you can do cloning without having to punish pirates for that in the first place. Total Recall respawn might work. Remember, the minion dudes would have phantom pains of what killed them. Yeah, something like that. So would an outlaw not have access to full revive cycle? That's the problem. All right, so let me work through this because I think there's some confusion. Right now, the way it works is, here's the lore behind respawning. You have a clone. You get into your clone. And it's illegal for you to clone more than one of yourself. Okay? And over time, your clones began to genetically drift, and you began to have some serious issues until eventually you just are a pile of goo instead of a person when you try to respawn, and that's when you're dead. And then your new you have to have you're permadead, and then you have to build a successor, and you lose some of your rep, you lose some of your money for inheritance purposes. It's what's called a money sink, a way to reduce inflation. So people who die a lot, that sort of thing. There is always going to be some sort of way of making sure that players aren't hoarding tons and tons of cash for the betterment of the economy. Now, here's where things go wrong. It's illegal to have more than one body. I live in Pyro. Fuck the law. I don't need to listen to your fucking law. I'll just clone 1,000 of me. You can't stop me. So right there, the logic starts breaking down. Okay, so you need to have access to clones in pirate facilities, but you need to make it sure so that logically it doesn't make any, you can't, other than mechanically, that you can't just spawn more people. So how do you do that? Well, you can't do it with the system that they currently have. It's illegal. No, that doesn't work. It doesn't work as an explanation. There needs to be a physical reason why that's not possible. And it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be hard science. It can just be, we don't have a full understanding of how consciousness works, but we are able to transfer consciousness from one body to another, but for some reason, there is a hard limit on the number of times this can happen. Thank you. Thank you, Atlas. So that makes a lot more sense. What I just proposed of having some sort of limit to consciousness as some sort of barrier that we don't understand as a species because it's an interesting story. I think you can interestingly delve into stories, some Philip K. Dick kind of alternate reality shit, which is fitting because, again, Blade Runner, which is based off of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is a short story made by Philip K. Dick. So follow universal no clones rule like some versions of simulation theory have, where if you have to make another, your consciousness, your clone doesn't end up being exactly the same as you. Yeah, something like that. Probably could be that they cannot duplicate consciousness. They can't. They can duplicate consciousness but not transfer. Yeah. Something that is not really talked about, NPC crew controls. Does this worry you that we have no clue how we're going to be able to give them orders and make use of them? No, I understand exactly how they're going to make use of them. CIG is going to look at how other companies do it and then just kind of reinvent the wheel from scratch. And it doesn't really worry me because I already know it's going to be clunky. The first version is going to suck. It's going to get better, but at a certain point, there's an upper limit of how you can do NPC controls. And that's one of the reasons why I've been a very, very staunch advocate to a negative degree, because a lot of people hate me when I say this. You cannot control large ships with just NPC crews. You just fundamentally will not be able to. You will be able to do it, like, technically, but you won't be able to, and even AI bladed, you won't be able to effectively. You're just going to lose a lot of effectiveness and time, and eventually you're just gonna get killed by other players or NPCs. Exactly. Like I've said many times before, you will always, I think the most effective way of doing big ships is having NPCs do small redundant shit. Basic maintenance, refueling, sweeping the floors, that kind of thing. Gunners, maybe. But you have one player who is the chief engineer, the chief, the gunner captain, the head janitor, whatever, who is the one who's actually telling those NPCs what to do. And then you have a captain who's the head of the ship who's telling the other players what to do. So Star Citizens and multi-crew gameplay will look more like Star Trek than Star Wars. You're not going to all be in the Millennium Falcon together. You'll be you'll be in a big ship where you've got a lot of other people who are NPCs who are doing the bullshit work, and the players are controlling those NPCs specifically to direct it, that kind of stuff. We are playing an RTS. People will notice this soon enough. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about it, but I wouldn't plan on your entire life being able to, or your entire career being able to control like a corporation run by you and a bunch of NPCs. That's not going to happen. Not because necessarily it's impossible, but because it doesn't work with a kind of game that CIG is trying to build. And again, CIG doesn't want you to say, they'll never say no. They'll say maybe. They'd love to be able to do something like that. But as they found out with balancing, and then they'll continue to find out throughout as the game becomes more and more complete, there's a lot of ideas that just don't work. Not with the kind of game that you're building with Star Citizen. Yeah, gunner captain like the one we met on the Javelin Invictus would be a human on a real ship, and gunners mostly NPCs. Yeah, and the gunner and captain would then would order the guns on the ships to target wherever they need to target. You know, I can see it happening if all you want to do is trading in secure space. Yeah, but then you're not also making a lot of money if you're trading in secure space. So it'll be expensive to have NPC crew members to trade in secure space. Everyone want brooms in games so I can keep my crew busy. Yes. After 14 years in the Navy, I can say that the crew will still spend a lot of time cleaning. Yes. This is not Trade Wars. It was originally called Trader Citizen, or Space Trader or something like that was the name of it originally. Star Citizen was. Traveling, not playing this week. Do you think 3.14 will release tomorrow or moved out? It has a shot of releasing tomorrow, but I don't think it'll be released until next week at the earliest. Unless you're running a whole E, I'd say even running a full, running arms full of kitty litter would net you millions. What? Dawn Sealer? I don't know I don't get that. ED NPC controls were all right. Space Warfare Officer. Yeah, it effectively would be a different game if you could control large NPC crews. You'd need a bunch of different mechanics. Yeah. No Roomba. Well, we've seen, for instance, in safe space, you're not making millions off of small runs. That's not going to happen. You're not going to even be pulling your whole E out for those runs. There would be no purpose. Because no one would say, hey, we need to move this number of huge shit. And if they did, they wouldn't be doing it in one go from planet to planet. That would be, it's cheaper to hire and faster to hire, 100 freelancer maxes to do the job of one whole E. Because they can fill their loads up faster and disembark them faster than having to load up a whole E, like fly it across the system and then dump everything out. The amount of loading, travel, and unload times alone would be like nuts. Will all the squadron locations in Squadron 42 transfer the PU? Yes. Every location in Squadron 42 is in the PU. So they will be the same thing. What I'm thinking about is the Valkyrie, for example. Do you think you'll be able to have your own NPC landing party? That's a tough one. I think you might be able to, but I think you'd still need a sergeant. You'd need to have like a human player who is controlling those NPCs. But we'll see. And the reason, and that's another point, is that, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it because the reason why CIG hasn't messed with it yet is because they haven't messed with it yet. CIG, when they get to it, when AI is ready to, or NPCs are ready to be player commanded, CIG will have a system, develop a system at the time. But there's no point in building a system now for it and then finding out that system doesn't work when they actually have NPCs come in. And in fact, they are building an NPC control system with Squadron 42, which is something they've shown off way back in the day, but they've also been doing some updates on it, where it's essentially allows you to control your fighter wing to give commands for to your squadron. Or to your wing, to your wing person, your wingman. You can give them orders to do very specific things, similar to like other Wing Commander games. So I would expect that they would take that system and then expand upon it, similar to how Jared talked about how, the first iteration of bombing that they're testing is just missiles without guidance, and refueling is just docking without docking with fuel arms. So. Astropub, the locations of Squadron 42 may be in Star Citizen. I'll be in Star Citizen, but some of them will be in different state in theory because the action is many years apart. So some places could be deserted ruins. That's true. We won't know until after the events of Squadron 42 what happens. I believe CIG said something about buying NPCs/crews that could learn to become more effective. Any idea what that cost disparity will premium versus duds will be? Massive. CIG has already talked about, like, I've seen the ship teams at CIG talk about, you don't want to know how expensive just pulling a caterpillar, or just pulling an Idris out of dock is going to be. Just to refuel an Idris entirely will bankrupt you, kind of thing. So I am imagining that like a top skilled crack gunner on a ship that's an NPC is going to cost you way more than a similarly skilled human, a friend, because they're going to cost you more, because on top of that, they also have requirements for living, like maybe specific types of food, specific types of residences. They need a specific type of bed. If you're an expert in your field, then you're goddamn right you're going to ask for luxuries, and they probably will, which will mean that if you don't meet those luxuries, they're going to leave. And if you refuse to do that, they might mutiny on you. And now you've got a dead NPC. you're not using them anymore. Thought I saw something. Kraken Privateer has hubs for NPCs that work there. That means ground bases could allow you to store NPCs in the future. Not really. Because the thing about Kraken, the Kraken Privateer, and the Krakens themselves, is that their beds are designed for the crew, not designed for extra crew. So, as we've seen with other ships, I would highly doubt that the Kraken would have enough beds to support additional crew on top of the crew. That's why I don't think the Kraken is a good choice for that idea, that ferry idea that I've been pushing, which I think is going to be needed once we start seeing multiple systems. Speaking of multiple systems, before I get into the Xi'an stuff, I would like to point out the fact that CIG is already working on Nyx, the Nyx planets, and I said a long time ago that I was fairly certain that Nyx and Pyro will be out at the same time, because CIG is not going to release Pyro until they can get server meshing in, and because they need server meshing for multiple systems. So server meshing isn't going to get done this year, we know for sure. The earliest we would see it is in the summer, and I doubt we're going to see it next summer. I think we'll see it next fall or next winter. So, at the earliest. So, we're more likely to see static server meshing CitizenCon 2022. And we know that the planetary team doesn't just sit on their hands. They continue to work. And they have been, and they will. So Nyx will probably, my theory is that Nyx will be mostly done by the end of this year, early next year, in terms of the planets. The points of interest might take a little bit longer, and the reworking of Levski might take a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw previews of Delamar, a redone Delamar in the next 6 months. If you have Pyro, Nyx, and Stanton, you have evil, neutral, and good zones. That'd be really good. Yeah, it would. It would also give incentives for people to start trading to Nyx, because Nyx will require a lot of materials that they don't have in Stanton, but they don't have in Nyx. And the only way to get to Nyx is to go through Pyro. So carry some escorts, baby. You know. I have no expectations for CitizenCon. Probably going to fake stealth again. Yes. For medical play, if I'm rescuing players, will the payouts be up in the to the discretion of the person I'm rescuing, or how will it work? We don't know quite yet. We know that they're going to be doing missions specifically for NPCs. Well, they'll give us fixed payout for them. There's probably a bonus payout with NPCs. With players, I think it'll be up to between you and the player. I'm imagining that they're going to rework the current system for things like transport. The beacon system needs to change, but we'll see how that changes. They'll probably tie it into the dynamic missions. But I don't think that when the first iteration of health, you will have even missions for players to do that. You'll just have players ask for help, and you go help them. Would love a Republic Commando style control key, but I'm not for a second going to hope on rely on that being a thing. Remind me of what that is. So here's something interesting. Hiding in the deliverables view of the roadmap is boat movement parameters. It's being worked on for Squadron 42, but not the PU. Yes. Levski was my favorite landing base. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it. I liked it a lot. If I'm trading Stanton to Nyx, I'm doing low volume, high value on a hammerhead. No, I mean, like, the things that you're going to be selling at Nick's for a lot of money are medical supplies and food and water. Will be the basic necessities that they can't grow on Levski, or they don't have a ton of. Maybe luxuries, but, you know, luxuries not like high end, but like middle luxuries. And what you'll buy at Nick's and then sell back at Stanton are high value minerals, or you know, because it's a mining area. Those sorts of things. Maybe they have some local stuff that they can produce that can send back. But yeah, you got to go through Pyro. The same way they're doing fueling at first. Just have to get lucky at someone online and can get you. Yeah. What do you think will be the big reveal at CitizenCon? Anvil gunship. I think they're also going to talk about more concrete on things like medical gameplay, Death of the Spaceman, salvage, inventory. I think what we'll see at CitizenCon will be physicalized inventory, being able to move cargo out of a ship, NPCs getting on and off a ship. I think we'll see some salvage, some light salvage of being able to pull components out of stuff and selling it. We'll see some light survival, so maybe some injuries, like you get injured and your foot drags because your foot's injured, or your arm sags because you got shot in the arm. And then you'll see Nix. I think that's what we'll see in the whatever they call it, the big presentation. Yeah, and we'll see hulls. Yeah, but the ship that they're going to be selling is going to be the Anvil capital ship. Yes, the Jared did say we're going to see the Genesis Starliner there someday because it's made by Crusader, and the original idea of Crusader was the showroom is where you get to go see ships being built. So you'll be able to see Ares, Mercury's, Hercules, and Genesis all being built in an assembly yard at the Crusader Dynamics, Crusader Industries showcase. Maybe some Theaters of War stuff on CitizenCon. Maybe a new. You'll probably see some stuff at Squadron 42. We've gotten a Squadron 42 peak once a year. I think last year was the first year we didn't get a Squadron 42 peak, but we've had one every year for like 5 years. At the end of the year, they give us something about Squadron 42. You see nothing? You should be seeing a video right now, Raytheon. Wouldn't be surprised if we see some concept of BMM, possibly. He's saying art wraps up this week, Miles, is what he's saying. He's saying that the Banu Merchantman is scheduled to have its art pass wrap up this week. That doesn't mean anything, though. You missed the vertical slice? Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people say, oh, where's Squadron 42? It's like they give us a monthly update on it, A, and B, they give us a yearly kind of look at what they're doing. They gave us 2 trailers. It was a trailer, then it was the vertical slice, then it was another trailer in 2018, and then they gave us the visual teaser in 2019, and they didn't give us anything last year. That was the only thing they didn't give us was Squadron 42 last year, at the end of everything. Are all ships buyable with in-game currency? All flyable ships are buyable with in-game currency currently, except for the Scythe. But yes. All ships will be acquirable in game, but all ships are buyable with in-game currency. Every single ship in the game that's flyable. If it's not in the game, if it's not physically able to fly in the game yet, then it's not available there yet. But yes. We got the briefing room. Yeah, we got one briefing room update. That's true. Technically, that's an update. We got to see the station. So yeah, they did do us a little update there. It's not the same. I can go over it, but it's not the same. The Squadron 42 update and the Star Citizen update are different. They share much of the same thing. There's like, I would say 90% of it's the same, but there's a 10% that's just dedicated to Squadron 42 that you don't see in Star Citizen, for Star Citizen stuff. Is the M2 available for in-game currency now? I think it's available in 3.14, but not in 3.13. Usually if a ship comes out, the patch it comes out, it's not available in-game to purchase. It's usually the patch after that, or 2 patches after that, that it gets added. Squad 42 is looking sweet, and that's all I'm telling you. Thank you, Gil. Good job on, good job to you and your team on Nyx. It looks fantastic. And as I've been telling chat forever, y'all don't just sit on your hands when you need something done. You just do it. And when you got nothing to do, you move on to the next thing. It's in 3.14. Okay, yeah. Saber Raven is not currently available to buy in game with in-game currency. Okay, that's true. And the Saber Raven. So the Saber Raven and I think the Scythe are the only two. Also the Mustang Omega, I think are the other ones. But the Mustang Omega and the Saber you couldn't get unless you purchased a hardware add-on. So yes, all but 3 ships are currently purchasable in game. Yeah, that's what I said, the Omega. And I'm going to be honest, the Omega isn't some overpowered ship, neither is the Raven. They're good for what they do, but there are other ships that do what they do better. Is it true that Squadron 42 will have a Vandal revealed as being the ultimate form of Karen? Yes, that is true. Spoilers. It's got an extra supercharger over the Gamma. It does, but compared the Omega to the M50 or the 350R, it's not as good. That's what I mean. It's like, I think the question is, the spirit of the question is, do I have to buy anything other than the starter package? And the answer is no, because yes, you can acquire all the ships in game. Because the question, generally speaking, when those kind of questions come out, the question really means, do I have to buy a ship? Is there one ship that's overpowered that's only buyable with cash? And the answer is not really. I think when we get to the larger ships, there'll definitely be some restrictions. Like, I don't think everyone will be able to purchase a Javelin or an Idris when they can come out. You may have a chance, but there's probably going to be a limited number, and they'll only be available at a certain time, at certain points in the verse. So you'll essentially have to save up money, wait for an announcement for that they're going to start a sale, fly to the area that they're selling them, and then wait for them to sell. And there's definitely a rep wall. Yeah, for sure. That too. Squadron 42 spoiler, you don't ever fly a ship. It's instead a farming sim in space. Gil responded. Thank you for your comments. I've not much to look at the texture tiling on live PTU, but I'll pass the love. No problem. You have to be a general in the UE or something. Not necessarily general, but you'll definitely have to have a high reputation with the UE, or at least some of the branches of the UE, the advocacy or the CDF or something like that, to be able to get that into that. Theoretically, all ships that will be built in game, so there'll be a limited stock for resources. Yes, so all ships are built in game, because they're going to use the background simulation to determine how many ships can be built with the resources available and what those limits are going to be based off of demand. So they're going to run an actual in-game simulation, which sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It's something that economists have been using for 20, 30 years. and businesses have been running the simulations as well, especially as computers are becoming more powerful. However, there's not many games out there that do what CIG is trying to do in terms of the in-depth nature of even basic economic features with Star Citizen. Well, that said, I could see rolling out a wide variety of games after Squadron, a pirate campaign, a trader campaign, Explorer, basically just pump out single-player games for those players. Yes. For those of you who don't realize, one of the things that Aaron Roberts said was they plan, once they get Squadron 42, the first part done, he feels like he could turn around and pump out a single-player game every 2 years. And it's important to remember that the reason why Squadron 42 is taking so long is that a lot of the base elements of Squadron 42 are shared with Star Citizen. So once you get Squadron 42 out, all of the base elements to make a single-player game in the Star Citizen universe and with the Star Citizen engine are mostly done. There's obviously tweaks, updates, changes that can be made, but all the fundamental pillars don't need to be rebuilt for each game. Mass Effect, the difference between Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, it took them a very long time to go from 1 to 2 because they used a completely different engine for 2. I think they use Unreal, whereas the first one was using an old BioWare engine. Oh, it's the BioWare, but yeah, one of their old BioWare engines. But then between 2 and 3 was like 2 years. It was a super quick turnaround because they were using the same engine as 2. So if you have and they already built all the resources out. So I wouldn't be surprised if once Squadron 42 comes out, you will see the second part of Squadron 42 and the third part of Squadron 42 within 2 years of each other. I wonder if the sequels would be sold as standalone DLCs. Yes, they are. They're going to be standalone, not DLCs. They'll be standalone games. They've already said that. Could they share resources, perhaps? They definitely will. Bonus that if you dodge the big problem the ED is having, that PvE players not wanting to deal with PvP players, this way PvE players get to play in the verse, but not the MMO. They can still play in the MMO too. They just have to play in the safer sandboxes. Hey, Craiglin, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing better. Hope I had a good day. I am exhausted. I went on this beforehand, but I actually didn't even talk about it. I finished this guy up yesterday. It's hard to tell because he's, green. Let me do the no thing. And turn it off. And suddenly everything's a lie. No, wait. Everything's a lie. Life is a lie. I've been slowly getting through my pile of shame. I am definitely not an expert, but I am a enthusiastic amateur when it comes to painting minis. In the process, essentially, since the beginning of 2021, I have painted over 100 orcs, I think. Yeah. I am now down to 3 infantry units left. And then I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 vehicles and 10 bikes on top of that. Yeah, they're very tiny. It's hard for me to paint those too. But as always, when I paint a mini, I try to show them off in office hours. So at some point, I will paint my my freelancer, but I got to get through these orcs first. Kaniak asks, going on a bit of a tangent here, but in terms of Star Citizen character creation, has CIG ever mentioned allowing players to alter body parts, like more bulk or muscle tone, for example? There was a couple of mentions from the character team. So this would be something that you'd have to ask the character team. So whenever you see the character team going on to an ISC or SCL, this would be a good thing to ask them. About 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 2018, Austin 2018, the character teams did a presentation at CitizenCon talking about how they recently made a breakthrough on allowing for different size characters to exist. So height and weight and body mass and that kind of thing, to essentially allow clothing to morph to those body types, and to make it easier for you to, like, armor to work and for still flying. That seemed like they had just finished that off, or were almost done with that at the end of 2018. So it may still be in production, but they have talked about it. It's something that they were working on, and they were working on it alongside the hair tech. So I think it was technically something they were going to tackle after they got hair tech done. And the hair tech is looking like it's heading towards its done phase, at least. So now I don't think that means that you're going to ever see, arc levels of tiny humans and giant long boys, or, Jabba the Hutt in terms of sizes. You're not going to have those extremes. You're not going to have, massive weird characters, but you will, you'll be able to have some variation, I think. There has been different height characters in 314. That there has. Give us beards. No, I need to shave mine down a little bit. But yeah, beards. Where's the Star Kit in Warhammer? That's a good question. I need to get a Dragonfly painted Star Kitten. I'm terrible at freehand. I saw they're adding a Quantum Jump soundtrack. Question: are there any features you'd like them to add to make QT less dull? Require some jump triangulation. So requiring some sort of maneuvering while you're in QT, not massive maneuvering, but light maneuvering to kind of stay on target. As well as variations. So, like, for instance, making sure that you have power fluctuations properly, or your power is produced properly. Shields modulated properly, those sorts of things. But in general, there's nothing wrong with having downtime. CIG, I forget what it is, but I remember hearing this, maybe it was at a GDC that Chris Roberts was at, maybe it was an interview he did, but one of the things that Chris Roberts talked about as an inspiration for the MMO was a GDC, it was either GDC or it was a article written by one of the creators of Ultima, where the designer theorized, he argued that people remember more about the quiet moments between epic adventures in an MMO than they do about those epic adventures. So having built-in downtime for a game will actually increase productivity and likely attention to the game long term. When you're fucking around with your friends waiting for, everybody to get on, or, waiting for someone to finish crafting or whatever, those time periods tend to be more memorable because weird stuff happens or other things to sit around. So CIG is definitely working that into their formula, where they want to force downtime. They want you to force you to do things other than just constant action. Though I think CIG is still a little bit away from New World, where I think New World actually manages to hit this well, where if you're not going out and adventuring, there's a ton of other things you can do which are more passive, so it doesn't feel like you're not playing the game. It still feels like you're committing to do something, and you're still completing things, but you're not actually actively questing, and that still allows for that downtime where you're seeing hundreds of people running around a town at the same time. So, you saw the fan-made movie Hell's Reach? Oh yeah, the one that they took down. Yeah, I saw it. To be fair, Mass Effect 2 is probably also the best one, so maybe the different engine also justify with content kind of. Not really. I mean, like, I still disagree that with the popular take that Mass Effect 3 is bad. I think Mass Effect 3 is not as good as 1 and 2, but it's not bad. 2 is still the best. 1 is very shortly after that, and 3 is good. It's better than Andromeda. And I think what 3 suffers from is it didn't stick the landing properly. But I disagree that the whole idea that, oh, all these things done, you're down to 3 choices, that's bullshit. It's like, no, that's the message. You can literally sacrifice the entire universe and you only get 3 choices, but you at least have 3 choices. Essentially, everything you did was to get you to allow for 3 choices. They could have stuck that information a little bit better, but it works, I think, in my mind, where like you literally, the power of, you know, you're choosing the destiny of the galaxy still, but you only have 3 choices rather than being able to do whatever you want. You're not going to be able to like do everything you wanted to with the Mass Effect games anyways, but. Quantum is my make a sandwich time. Don't get rid of it, CIG. No, that's what I mean. Like getting a sandwich, using the bathroom, just talking with people. It's fine. Like the key is to not make Quantum the majority of the game, which I don't think they will. My face is tired. Now, that's a tragedy. Like the ambition that Mass Effect Andromeda had was massive. And it seems like at least their initial plans were going good. And then everything got pulled from under them. And it was, Mass Effect Andromeda is an example of why the current system for making games sucks and doesn't work all the time. Having limits is a good idea, but when you have grand scope and ambitions like Mass Effect Andromeda had, you need more time. You need more time and more resources, because eventually cutting those resources, those things down will turn it into a generic game. You either come at it with a very specific idea of where you're going to go, or if you're going to go grand, you got to throw the money at it. And it's not like EA is running out of cash. I believe the game will have been designed to have enough content around planetary zones, so you won't be doing a ton of QT jumps unless you're a trader cargo hauler. I agree with that, General Sal. I think that's exactly the way that they're planning on doing it. I feel like leaving your planetary system, because of even things like reputation, will be a significant leave. It'll be a significant jump, because you won't have any jobs. Like going from Hurston to Crusader, they're right next to each other. But they have completely different authorities who run Crusader versus Hurston. So if you leave Hurston and you go to Crusader, you have to reevaluate for all of your contracts. Like even now, if you're a bounty hunter, you have to go do all of the Crusader security missions. You kind of work your way back up from the bottom. And so you have to rebuild that. And then in the future, when you have inventory, holy fuck. Like going from Hurston to Crusader, you're going to have to pick up everything you own and move it with you. And then you're going to have to buy a new place and dump all your crap in that new place. So like everything that CIG is developing is encouraging players to not go around much, to stay where they are safer in one area. And then if they really need to make more money or more opportunities or whatever, maybe a quest chain will send them off to another location, then you can move. But it's not going to be something you do every day. I think right now is the reason why we're moving all over the place is because the volume of content isn't enough in a planetary system. But I think that's going to change. There are too many FPS players in the Star Citizen community who only want instant action. I disagree. I think there's lots of players in Star Citizen who are FPS players who are more Arma players. Arma is a good example of where I think CIG is trying to hit. They're trying to hit that Arma sweet spot Because anyone who's done Milsim and Arma knows that like half of your time is just getting everyone ready, getting geared up, hopping into your ships or your helicopters or your vehicles, moving on to the op. Then you have some action where you're trying to clear out an area. Then once you've cleared out that area, then it's to reorganize, remount up, get all the new materials, head out, so on and so forth. Half of the game is organization. So half of the game is hurry up and wait. I think that's where Star Citizen's going to very much emulate. And I think there's lots of players. I also would say, and this is not a shot at any individual content creator. There's like very few content creators in Star Citizen who I hate. In fact, I don't say there's anyone I hate. There's a couple of them I don't like in terms of the content they produce, but that's not here or there. Like, that's personal preference kind of thing. But I feel like what works right now on Twitch, where you'll see certain content creators focus on more instant action combat, that's not representative of the game. And I think those content creators who do those sorts of things know that. That's they know that that's not the case. But they just want the game to work better. They want less desync. They want to be able to set up their operations. They want to be able to fuck with each other, but they can't because the game is broken. So, it's I feel like you can get that impression of a lot of Star Citizen FPS players are just like, I want instant action. It's more like they're just upset that they can't get any action, or it takes so long to get action and it's not reliable. Hey, Visible Fuse. Star Citizen YouTube, they show up. Yeah. I don't think it's a common though. Question, what's my opinion on the random generation versus handmade approaches of ED, MS, and Star Citizen for the respective games on a solar system level? Personally, I like Star Citizen's approach, albeit not even really started with the other systems, because it'll be too large, but not too big that you'll be able to see another player in theory. I think CIG is hitting the right sweet spots because No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous have a lot of empty worlds. They have a lot of worlds that are just basically set dressings. There's no content there. And what Star Citizen's trying to do is build content where they can and generate it when they can't. And the reason why it's hard to see right now what's going on in Star Citizen is because a significant portion of Star Citizen isn't done yet. The part where you have dynamically generated missions, which would be an important factor for making a planet like Hurston matter, because you'll start using more of the planet, not just a one area of interest here or there, or just flying around it. It's not just fly to a random location, stop, ooh, pretty sunset, and then go on. There'll be more stuff to do. And so I think that alone kind of shows that the Star Citizen approach works. I don't think that there's nothing to knock the No Man's Sky or Elite Dangerous approach, but it's a very different approach to games. And I think, again, No Man's Sky is much more of the survival sim, and Elite Dangerous is much more of the traditional space sim. The Frontier Elite, the Privateer, the Starlancer. Those sorts of experiences of an open world game with lots of content to explore, but limited. But making absolutely sure that you polish the shit out of what you have. So. Transport helipod here. Always people at spawn needing transport to AO. Yes, Merrick. I mean, that's one of the things that I loved doing I'm a terrible pilot, especially in Arma, but one of the things I loved doing in Arma was transporting people through helicopters from place to place. It was a fun experience and a relaxing experience because people always need to transport. And I think that idea, that concept in Star Citizen, I'm enjoying it. I'd like to do it. I'd like to be a Valkyrie pilot or a Cutlass pilot, where I'm bringing in people from into an area and then getting out and going back to forward operating base and, picking up more people as they respawn back into respawn chambers or whatever. So that's why another thing, I'm pretty sure that CIG will do things like portable respawn beds, portable medical beds, portable generators, and portable refineries, just because they make sense for gameplay at a certain point. The cloning vats, yeah. PS2 with Galaxy Dropsets, yeah. That was what I used to do with Battlefield franchise. I used to hop into a Blackhawk and then drop people off at locations and get out. That was mwah, or Little Bird. Yes, a back-mounted medical cot, it would make sense as well. Yeah, when I wasn't doing transport, I was doing medic, and in Battlefield games. One of my favorite things to do is walk up there and see absolutely everyone on my team get slaughtered, and then run up with the paddles and just be like boop 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 while I'm getting shot at, and like reviving like 15 people, then running away into cover, and then having them all fire, then die, then run back out and revive again. I remember one of my more vivid memories was like someone was around the corner, was like prone shooting around a corner, and they'd die, and I'd be right next to them. I'd just be like, boop, and they'd pop back up, fire, die, boop, back up, making them invincible. Nick's good. Nick's was fucking fantastic. Nick's was looking amazing. Now, I think the one place that the environmental team still has to work on, and this is not a critique in the long run, because I know that they know this and they're already working on it, is at a distance, planets look mwah. At a long range, planets look mwah. At short range, planets look mwah. Medium range, where you're going from long to short, you have some problems, but I think a lot of that has to do with just the renderer, just the old renderer with pop ends and stuff like that. They need to kind of update that to Gen 12 for that to help. But they also need to kind of smooth out some of that areas here and there. Or maybe talk like the Xi'an. That's a good point. I should probably talk about the Xi'an. Hope they fixed the Thailand. If you watch the latest ISC, they talked a little bit about that. All right. So there is one system in the Xi'an, and run by the Xi'an, which is like 110%. Where is it? The tall system. It's the tall system. All right. So tall 2. Meet the Stanton system. Let me pull it up. There. Meet the Tall system, the Stanton system of the Xi'an. Now, there was a talk recently on the subreddit about someone wanting a Tron-inspired landing zone, because Tron's cool, especially Tron Legacy is cool. I agree. And welcome to Tron Legacy, Xi'an Edition. I call this the Stanton system of the Xi'an because every planet except for Tall 1, and I think Tall 4 is, and Tall 6, or Tall 6 and 7, are terraformed and used by major production manufacturing. It's the closest analog to the Stanton system the Xi'an that we know the Xi'an have. Each planet in these systems, these forced planets, all have very specific roles. So let's go for Osha. So this is a technology hub. So it's their microtech. Factories produce some of the most advanced ship parts in the verse. This terraformed terrestrial world has earned the nickname of the Hive by human visitors due to all the buildings being accented in yellow. It's completely covered in buildings. It's, essentially every single Xi'an planet that we know of, or especially Xi'an planet that has a production of some kind, is ArcCorp. Which is, they've even talked about, like, the closest production world to the Xi'an is ArcCorp. Xi'an have even mentioned that. It's the closest they've ever seen to humans coming to something like that. Then Luxi. Cultural heart, considered the most human-friendly planet in the system. Its vibrant culinary scene and textile industry draws a steady stream of visitors and traders to the planet. The Xi'an also use this naturally habitable world as a major agricultural production planet. So this is a farm world. I'll show some pictures off of these here in a bit, because we actually have pictures for each of these. And Li Shavu. Naturally habitable terrestrial planet has trace amounts of acid in its atmosphere. For that reason, the Xi'an decided to limit the number of visitors to the planet and place large hydrogen and antimatter processing plants here, making Li Shavu an appealing destination for haulers but few else. So this is their hydrogen and antimatter facilities. This is their ArcCorp. For those who don't know, ArcCorp is entirely ringed around its equator with antimatter production facilities. So this is their kind of... Notice that each of these have like kind of are dedicated to one thing, more or less. And then we've got Rior. Rior is a terraformed terrestrial world with factories churning out advanced weapons for personal and ship armament. Even though it's technically a weapons planet, a strong military presence keeps crime to a minimum. All right. So this is the Tall system. Let's go back. And let's see where the Tall system is. Jump tunnels open. The closest one for Tall is Palace, which was a former Periline system. And then Baker and Kiel. So it's only like 4 jumps away from Kiel, which is not bad. Which is itself only like 3 or 4 jumps away from Stanton. So, yeah, because Baker, you can go from Baker to Tyak, from Tyak to Terra, and from Terra to Stanton. So, gotta go, man. All right. So, that sounds all great, right? But Paul, why are you calling these Tron worlds? Well, let's take a look at these various planets. God, that's their woo-hoo-hoo. That's their I forgot that's what their agricultural plans look like. And All right, here we go. So this is the which one is this? This one is the Techno World. This is their this is their Tech World. This is their Microtech. This is Tall 3, aka Oixa. Olicha, I think. Olicha. I don't know what the X is and how it's pronounced in Xi'an. I'll probably get corrected. This is Luxi. This is their cultural heart. This is their agricultural world. You can kind of see some of the ground here. But you see the architectural style. You see why I'm calling these Tron worlds? This is the antimatter and hydrogen world. This is Lungxi. And this are, Lishvu, I think is what it's called. They have two different names for it. And this is their weapons world. Their weapon manufacturing and armor like weapon making for ships and guns and stuff like that. Lixau. My Banu is terrible. Okay, so Lingxi, Lasu, Oliza. Well, the XA is the question of like how you pronounce it. Yomi. That's the first one, yeah. Olixa. So, but you get my horrible pronunciation aside, you see what I'm talking about. So, if you are looking for Tron in Star Citizen, go to the Tall system. It is very much your place to be. It's also very happening if you like Stanton. If you like Stanton, but you like a little bit of an alien twist, Tall's where you're going to go. Xi'an Engineer. So how much anti-grav do you want? Xi'an Emperor. Yes. Schlong was just flashed on stream. It's not the case. There we go. Laoshu. This stuff is very vertical. Everything they do is very vertical. The Xi'an are very vertical in terms of their engineering. Even their ships are vertical. Does Xi'an have salvage ship too? Probably. We haven't seen it yet. Okay, I have to bail and go. I'm going to make an epic spreadsheet to work on, so I have to work all weekend. Have a good night there, Don Star. Steeler. Who's bored? Good choice. The Xi'an Star is very Tron-like. It's so shiny and neon. Exactly. So the question is, why are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Tron? They also sleep upright, don't they? I think so, yeah. With their backs against stuff. I think they do. Are there any subterranean societies in the lore? Well, there's lots of human subterranean facilities. There's one in a system that was never settled that has one location which is actually deep underground because it's the only way it survives the massive radiation that comes off the star. There's no species that are exclusively subterranean, though. Not that we know of. Good pizza? Yeah, Tron has the best pizza. Question, do you think that some player would stay in Stanton playing the game after release and beyond, never explore another system? Possibly. I could see it. I mean, I know there are some players who legitimately at release want to go open up a farm somewhere and just be a space farmer. Yeah, the Tall system, T-A-L-L, or T-A-L, I think is the name of it. T-A-L is where you want to look for. So check it out yourself. go onto the star map, go look at Tull. You can go to Galactipedia. There's the Star Citizen Wiki, which is the starcitizen.tools, which is a great resource, which also has lots of information on it. That's where you can find a lot of those pictures too. So 400i when? More like 400 lie, am I right? And how enjoy that sock hater. no, that's with it. I soon-ish. I'm 100% certain that the 400i is going to come out. But if it comes out looking the way that the leaks showed it, I am going to dunk on it. Because it looks ugly. It looks ugly and purposeless. Especially for a ship that should be between the sizes of a Freelancer and a Star Runner. The sock video was a lie too. I wouldn't. So that design, my problem with it is the front hydrofoil. It doesn't make a lot of sense to skinny it out like that because you're wasting a lot of space because it's probably about half the ship, at least from the looks of it. At least a third, if not a half the ship is this front section. And if you have no purpose for it, then there's no purpose for it. And if you make a purpose for it, like where all the fuel is or where all the components are, or something like that, then you're just putting a giant target on the location. There's really, like, if they widened it out and made it more of a pizza shape, made it more look like a kind of a mini 890 jump, then yeah, I could see that. I could see that use for it. The fact that it kind of tapers into this tiny little skinny dick and then comes back down out, it's a waste of space. Like, even for, like, not even good yacht design. What? It's a skinny dick. That's what it is. It's a dick lance. Will we get space cheese in 314? No, unfortunately. No space cheese. No space pies in the pie patch. I want to visit Earth. I hear it's a crap hole. It's not really a crap hole. It's just how to put this politely without alienating European fans. It's kind of like a mid-sized European city that was highly populated 100 years ago, but has declined since. Kind of like a rural town, a large rural town, or like a large rural town in America. Where the main streets are empty. You're missing tons of stuff. Like a bunch of shops are closed. There's like one or two shops that are still open, but you see that people live there, but you don't see any people. That's kind of how Earth is in Star Citizen. There's places where people used to live, but no one lives there anymore. If I remember correctly, its population is actually below what we have today on Earth. It's something like 3 billion versus the, whatever the 8 billion we have on the planet now. So it's significantly lower with a lot more developed space because they preserved a lot of the historical monuments. So yeah, almost like the people just got out. Do you think after release of Squadron 42 we will ever see the Vanduul planet or city in some form? Vanduul don't really have cities, but we'll definitely see Vanduuls on planets and Vanduuls controlling planets, yes. Vanduul are nomadic. They don't have cities. Their cities are their ships. Like a kingship is the closest that we'll see to a Vanduul city. I want to see an origin orbital habitat. I do too. I kind of do. Plot twist is actually an 800i and way bigger. Yeah. That's a good plot twist. How many systems do you think they'll have done in Squadron 42 included? I know how many systems there are in Squadron 42, but it's a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. I will just say, no, I'm not going to say anything. Not going to say anything because it's a spoiler. Not going to say it. It's like, I will say, and then realize that if I said anything at all, it would be counted as a spoiler. Kingship is a craft world. Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. For those of you who are 40K familiar, Kingship is like an Eldar craft world. Question: at the rate that Star Citizen 42 assets and structure is added to Star Citizen, do you think we might see NPC aliens before Squadron 42, or do you think they'll wait for a single-player release for the start of that thing? I think CIG will, unless it's directly connected to Squadron 42's plot, they'll definitely drop in aliens before. I think the Vanduul we may not see because they are, as we know, directly connected to the Squadron 42. So, yeah, we'll see. Where is the home world of Origin? Do you think the city would build on Origin asset? The home world of Origin is Earth. It was actually it's Frankfurt. Oh wait, no, is it Frankfurt? No. Is it Cologne? It's a German city. Origin is a German company. It kind of the GmbH Origin Jumpworks GmbH kind of gives that away, but. Because Origin is a German company, they actually moved from Earth to Austin, New Austin, Terra, which is kind of appropriate considering how many German names we have in Austin today, in Old Austin. And it is now Origin Town. There's a couple of different companies that are headquartered in New Austin and Terra, but yeah. Origin's just BMW. Yeah, they're heavily inspired by BMW. Yeah, they moved to New Austin. It's 42, isn't it? No, it's not 42. It's less than 42. I'm not going to say under or over or anything like that. I'll just say it's less than 10, but more than 1. It's Squadron 42. We might get Satiball with Origin object push-pull. We might. But the thing they'll need to do with Satiball after push-pull is they need to fix the desync. Because it's not just object push-pull. It's also smooth movements in EVA. 9 confirmed. No. Would be awesome to see Tesla crashed on Mars. I think I'd love to see more of those little Easter eggs. I think CIG will do those. We'll probably see those little Easter eggs. They'll be strewn about the universe. To see the Origin Tower on Terra. I don't know if there is an Origin Tower. There might be. $890 Satiball variant. Hey. I don't know if I finished answering that question about aliens, but yes, Squadron 42. I think CIG will 100% push out aliens into Star Citizen before it goes into Squadron 42, as long as those aliens are not a major part of Squadron 42. Although systems like Null are unclaimed, do you think we'll see heavier UEN assets since it's the border of the Vanduul and connects to major UEE systems? No. The way that the UEE deals with those things is they just kind of let those systems flounder on their own, and then we'll position their defense fleets in the closest claimed system to those unclaimed systems, because it also helps them in the sense they don't have to stretch themselves out further. They can tighten their noose around just the systems that they own. Because if they tried to protect Null on top of trying to protect the other systems it's connected to, it would be they would be dragging their supply lines further out into an area that already doesn't want them there. So they tend to stay back. The question is more for anyone. What does anyone know if the mechanical engineering gameplay and salvage gameplay will feed into each other's project completion? Like salvage assets and gameplay directly affect the progression of engineering. Repair, yes. Salvage and repair are flipped. They're the inverse of each other. Just like docking and is a huge part of refueling. And refining is a huge part of refueling and mining. There's lots of different aspects. Which is why I continue to say that while there may be mining or salvage gameplay and mining gameplay and refining gameplay, there's a couple of things like pirating and exploration, which I think will not really have, and bounty hunting, which won't really have direct gameplay. They'll have other gameplay loops will be looped into what they do. Yes, they do have. They do have a 890 or not even. They do have SATA ball. They had it in white box, but I think they canned that for now. All right, let's take a look at the monthly report. Kind of cap that off here. Sorry, my nose is itching because I need to shave this and it keeps my nose. Trim that stuff down. Okay. Monthly report. All right. Exploring and pirating are a combination of multiple systems working together? Yes. In fact, they even share elements. Exploration and mining does, or exploration and pirating does. All right, AI content. July's PE report reports that AI content received a large amount of data from the recent mocap shoot. Hey. The vendor behavior is the first to be addressed, with the team finishing the first polish pass along design, who sanity check the coffee shop setup. The next setups are to internally review the behavior with final data, retarget onto the female skeleton, and complete the look IK pass, which is good. That means we're going to have vendor, vendors will be saying stuff. They'll try to get you to buy stuff. They'll gesture for you to do things. They'll converse with you. Those are good things if they can hopefully work better than the bartender. The doctor and nurse elements of the medical behavior received data 2, which is currently being implemented and polished. The doctor is now set up to react to the player respawning or entering the room in flow, while the nurse inspects the relevant usables. Dialogue and fractal facial animations to match the flow will be added shortly. That's good. AI content was also rectifying bugs for Alphas 3.14. We'll focus on Orison's Voyager bar. Some feature work was put on hold to sanity check the setups and bring the AI to a better standard for release. Finally, they kicked off the pre-production of the future behaviors with Outpost, Hospital, and Patron behaviors, all well received by the directors. That's awesome. AI features. Last month, the AI feature team primarily focused on reviewing combat with the aim of refining existing behaviors and functionality to provide a more intelligible and enjoyable experience. The first part of this was reviewing the settings for perception and reactions to give the designers greater control over how the AI behaves when encountering a stimulus. Next, they work on the basic combat behaviors, ensuring cover selection is working as intended, and that the AI provides the base level of functionality after a first reaction to the enemy. We can actually see a lot of that in 3.14. If you play 3.14, and we talked about this last week on Captain's Table, where if you play 3.14 on low population servers and try to do any kind of FPS mission, they will rush you, they will get cover, they'll blind fire behind cover, they'll do the things they're supposed to be doing. So, and it's really, it's kind of nasty. And the essentially SEAL Team 6 is getting even better. Do I think they will add territory system control mechanic where if we push the Vandal out of a system, it becomes UEE and vice versa? Yes. I think that's but I think it'll be more of a keeping the influence of this certain thing out for a certain amount of time. It'll probably be controlled to Yeah, I think they'll probably connect it to something like the AI, to the procedural tech stuff, but also probably to reputation and such. They also, often the majority of technology for improving combat already exists. It's more of a case of reviewing very specific situations and ensuring that the AI behaves as intended and fixing sometimes simple bugs that produce bad behavior. From these beginnings, we hope to do a full review over all combat behaviors, which will lead to a better and more enjoyable gameplay. Okay. They also worked on specific behaviors to enable AI spread out and surround the player and taunt them while in melee combat. This is required to change the tactical point system to support a new mechanic, allowing them to weight points spread out from the other AI. Melee behaviors received an intention to ensure that they quickly switch from combat when the situation requires them to. Okay. Finally, the animators are continued working on the speed protocol and polish stages for the mocap cowering and surrendering animations. This will be useful for both unarmed and untrained AI and AI combat behaviors currently under review. Sweet. Maybe we'll be able to actually take in bounties alive. Love the AI team. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're doing a lot of good work. And if you've noticed over the last couple of months that I've been doing this, you'll notice that the AI stuff has just been going up and up and up and up and up and up. So it seems like AI is broken through whatever barrier they were in terms of trying to get things to work. So we're still down to some of the base tech getting to work. AI tech enabled the planetary navigation system to make connections between adjacent mesh lines, which is part of the base work to add support for planetary pathfinding. This means that triangles from the navigation mesh tile will create links to triangles from other adjacent tiles at a generation step. This means, in effect, that you will see on the surface of the planets AIs walking around patrolling bases or walking between various locations, being able to traverse the surface rather than being in the bunkers or in cities. They'll actually be able to walk on the surfaces of planets. They updated the tile generator debug draw to also work with the planetary navigation mesh tiles to help them debug issues that could appear during planetary mesh generation step. Work was submitted to allow NPCs to push a trolley along a path. The work for this includes playing an animation to connect the trolley, selecting a path, pushing the trolley along the path, disconnecting the trolley at the end, and moving away. For movement with the trolley, the team considered the size of the agent for collision avoidance and looked at the animations used for pushing an uphill and downhill, or when the NPC needs to turn the trolley to orient it with a path. Okay. Work was also done to automate testing by extending functionality on the flow graph to use references for other entities inside the same object container. Related to this, the AI teams began creating small levels and test behaviors that will be enabled later for automated testing, which will ultimately provide the better stability to their systems. Previously mentioned, collision avoidance work continued in July, this time on performance optimizations and creating cleaner functionality. Time was also dedicated to improving quantum travel behavior in a group. Now the leader checks that all participants, including the player if they're part of the group, have finished spooling before sending up a signal to jump. Nice. Okay. That means that we might be able to do group bounties or group missions with AI. So, for instance, you could get a escort mission where you're working with other AIs to protect an AI transport ship. That'd be kind of cool. Development of Subsumption Editor continued too, with the AI tech adding functionality to watch or modify multiple subsumption functions from the same view, which was named the Multigraph view. Multigraph. They also adjusted save functionality to work alongside it. Okay. This is a lot. Oh, God. Oh, God. This is a lot. This is a lot, guys. I'll go back from the very bottom, work my up. Yeti. Okay, yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. Ground navigation also means Yeti and things like crab. So, I remember that game Rift. I heard apparently the server didn't have enough people closing the rifts as they were opening, and they had to wipe the server because so many rifts opened up. All players were trapped in towns because many higher level monsters were running around. Oh. Lilo Dallas Multigraph. VFX. July saw the VFX team continue to overhaul the vehicle radar ping effects, including making use of a new shader for the ping itself, which is assigned to rapidly expanding sphere, highlighting any geometry it intersects. We have been very encouraged by the positive reaction to the overhaul so far, because as well as looking much neater in the old than the old version, a lot of effort went into making sure the effects are respectful of the gameplay requirements. There is more work to be done on this for future release, though, as we want to affect a change depending on the player's choice of ping angle. Okay. They also focused heavily on bug fixing and tech debt, alongside of polishing new thrusters and landing dust effects for 3.14. Vehicle tech. Spent last month fixing bugs and polishing a gameplay experience for 3.14. This including addressing feedback for the radar ping and scanning features provided by the community to ensure that they work at their best, particularly when searching for hard-to-find entities in space, such as faraway spaceships, minables, and other commodities. Hey, Daveski, thanks so much for that subscription, man. Subscription, man, dude, lady, NB, whatever. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Where the post talking about all the star map rework? That's a good question. The difference here is that the station goes criminal/pirate, not lost to AI. It'd be funny to see. Oh yeah, that's true. I hope they do, or at least think players won't be motivated to help. GW. Okay, what are we talking about? Does 9 players event ever flip a faction of the station? I don't. The players don't get help. We don't know yet. Such as faraway spaceships, minables, and other commodities. Additionally, they began preparing and expanded these features to first-person gameplay, where players will be able to ping for hidden life forms on foot and then scan for vital mission-related information. It'll be nice to condense the macro-level vehicle scanning features into a more granular on-foot experience, where players will be able to perform actions on entities that are only a few meters in front of them as opposed to dozens of kilometers away. Finally, support began showing player-emitted signatures and ambient levels around their vehicles in the HUD. This will give players a new idea of how detectable they are and how well they can detect others. UI, here we go. July saw UI feature and actor feature teams working closely on UI screens for the upcoming hospitals and healing gameplay. Once functional, they ironed out the teething problems with showing a 3D skeleton in a UI screen for the first time. They also fixed bugs and completed feature requests to support other teams in Alpha 3.14. Initial design work was done for tools and reusable components, which will help less experienced designers and artists build the UI screens. Nice. The UI tech team improved the visual holographic 3D items in the UI and optimized ways to display large lists without overloading the game. Thank God. Literally, there was some bug in the game where literally you couldn't pull up your hangar. You couldn't pull up your ships in the app, because if you had too many, you would just crash the whole game. There's a workaround for it, but UI tech team improved. Okay, holographic 3D items in the UI optimized ways to display large lists without loading the game. Work also continued on the common controls for 3D objects that can be used in the future screens across the game, including a new map system. There you go, Max. New map system being worked on by the UI team. Hot damn. Turbulent web platform. July, the platform was delivered an automation mechanism to make it easier and quicker for the platform to ensure players have the right items in their accounts. They're currently working on a project to make the sum database functionality asynchronous using Kafka technology. The first proof of concept will be the pledge store fulfillment processes, and will make it more efficient and less prone to bugs. Okay. Turbulent services. Last month, the Lives Tool team fixed bugs that made improvements that previously released role-based access in Hex. They also improved the crash handling pipeline and supported publishing technology team with the Alpha 3.14 release. The game service team continued working on the server meshing project alongside making supportive flexes to Hex in Alpha 3.14. There we go. Tech Animation. Tech Animation completed their planning for the new quarter. We're all well underway in the deliverables, including adjusting the creation and implementation of upcoming key deliverables. For example, AI combat iteration, usables, and art refinement to head assets. Nice. Additionally, the team is looking for interesting challenge. One of those was to create a cross-platform BRF solder. Is this supposed to be slider? I don't know what that is. RBF solder. To assist in character deformation. The mandate is to create a same code base to be used in Maya and create a far improved usability. This will allow us to speed up the processing of Maya animation assets and potentially the game too. The team also began Amblic cache animation support. Whilst existing tools already support this technology, the team need to further integrate it into the animation toolset for a number of key deliverables. Awesome. In July, Systematic Services and Tools, SST, continued the development of Quantum, the economy and AI simulation. This involved improving fidelity and interaction with the game itself to provide further intelligent reasoning as to why certain as-service beacons spawn and why stop at fuel prices shift. The team are currently dealing with the final edge cases for the Super P cache for Alpha 3.14 and optimizing other dependencies and services, which we know is in the game because of code divers. Question: do we have enough toilets for patients at those hospitals? That's a good question. QA spent July near daily publishes for 3.14, which were primarily for logging server health and making fixes. The team's development focused on the Ninetales event, with QA provide daily support for US-based PU team, along with internal playtests as needed. Towards the end of the month, this expanded into supporting the personal inventory system. On the management side, there's the team focused on scheduling to ensure that they have proper coverage for the upcoming Alpha 3.14 content and coordinated the UK studio to divide features, ATRs, and events to better fit the release schedule. They also planned what's needed for staging streams, including headcount and ownership. Nice. Okay. All right. Props. Props team spent the month working on utilitarian services for the medical gameplay props. These match the metrics and functionality of the high-tech props seen in Alpha 3.14, but have the appropriate art style to match the more lawless, low-tech hospital locations such as Grimhex. Time was also spent creating new assets for Orison's Crusader showroom, including furniture, signage, and installations. Work continued on the props for the colonial outposts too. Nice. Narrative. Narrative began its month with a mocap shoot in UK to capture the first set of vendor voice packs. This archetype was the result of working closely with the AI and audio teams and will include lines licensed by bartenders and food stall vendors across the used by bartenders and food stall vendors across the PU. CIG. ¿Por qué no me? CIG. ¿Por qué? Oh, no. It's fine. Some additional lines were also recorded to support upcoming mission content. There was a lot of discussion with the various environment teams over upcoming outposts and hospitals currently in development. This work included write-ups for various types of NPCs encountered in these locations and additional documentation and description described the branding posters and other environment text that might be needed. An additional work was done to fleshed out by some of the gangs of Pyro, delving into their hierarchies, leaders, and wealth levels. That's cool. As with previous months, Narrative worked closely with AI content to outline script and character needs for some of the archetypes in development. This time, discussions focused on security and patron behaviors. These conversations ensure that both teams are in sync with the development characters and make sure scripts are generated using known AI triggers and contexts, and the behaviors align with the intended purpose of the character. On the dispatch front, the team released another installment of Loremakers Community Questions, where they answered questions from the forum. The recent Jump Point Vault featured a short story about Crossroads of Crime and Nexus, Joker returned for a new episode of Booty Call, which I haven't read. I got to read that one. And another update of Galactipedia was published, including articles on Levski, Dr. Scott Childress, Whitley's Guide, and Jax McCleary. Jax McCleary. Grimhex should have a nice sterile medical bay that resembles a drug lab, because totally doubles as a drug lab too. Yeah, something like that would work. All right. Moving on. Lighting. The lighting team for July included Task for Orson, Alpha 314, and added lighting interaction with the remaining HABs. The Personal Manager apps, PMA, lighting was updated to make it more user-friendly when selecting clothing and armor. Work also continued with the Colonial Outposts and hospital lighting for Lordville and Grimhex. Finally, they started atmosphere and color grading for Pyro's planets and moons and progressed to lighting Pyro's jump point gas cloud. Nice. Booty teach. No. Booty Call is the reason why I like reading Booty Call is because he's one of the few official lore sources that is not a UEE friendly lore source. So we know that he doesn't like the UEE, so we kind of get his perspective as an outsider compared to the rest of the UEE. July was a busy month for the graphics and VFX programming with Alpha 314 issues such as fog popping, flashing objects and particles, and blurry UI screens and holograms requiring attention. For the shader, they made improvements for the quality of hair rendering and comms calls, although work continues and refactored shader code responsible for the depth pass, shadows, and motion blur and silhouette rendering. This will fix various bugs and prepare for some of Gen 12 features and requirements. Reworked render to texture post-effect pipeline was completed and is now with the UI auditors for testing. This introduces custom bloom, drop shadow, color correction, and brightness adaptation that will apply to all visors and lens UIs, improving the visuals and legibility. The logic controlling the allocation of memory between the various UI screens was also adjusted to maximize quality while sticking to a fixed memory budget. Does this mean we're going to get actual usable UI even though we stare at the goddamn sun? Please, CIG? Please? Hey, Knowledge, how you doing, buddy? All right. For Gen 12, various validation issues were fixed, along with issues on specific laptops, where the dedicated GPU was disabled from OS/driver level, meaning the Vulkan renderer wouldn't initialize. Several architectural amendments were also made to improve the readability and usability of new renderer. On the VFX programming side, various new features were added, such as tinting for space loop particles based on planetary cloud albedo, new rotation features for patches for particles, and the ability to attach vector fields to characters to achieve effects. The latter includes leaves being pushed around by a character's feet. Nice. Me, I want to see shadow under a leaf floating in the air made by my feet. Yeah, it's going to happen. The vehicle experience team focused on the combat balance in Alpha 314, working closely with the community to iterate on, improve, and balance the various new features. The same went to the vehicle technical team, who focused on fixing bugs and supporting their latest feature scanning. Alongside supporting other vehicle teams, the fixing bugs and improving upcoming features, vehicle features continued to develop the new ship HUDs along UI team. Nice. One of the most exciting things we helped support through Alpha 314 is a new thruster dust VFX driven by VFX team. We helped with the code and functionality for this highly detailed thruster effects system. I'm so excited about the Gen 12 renderer making its way into the code base. It'll be a game changer too. Yeah. Shadow Leaf Tech. I think it'll change a lot of the performance for sure. If you saw what Vulkan did to like Doom 2016, just the sheer improvements on lower end systems it can do. So we'll see. It probably makes things look nicer too. Okay. Vehicle features also continue to develop jump points, which recently went through design adjustments to improve functionality. The team collaborated with narrative to ensure they don't stray from the lore and are confident that recent adjustments will make the feature better in the long run. Okay, so this is interesting. Will make the feature better in the long run. Intentionally, they also made jump points easier to work with and test, making sure they can rapidly iterate and improve the look and feel of the whole experience. Because that would make sense in terms of like the leaks of them using a jump point from Hurston to Microtech as a test bed. Maybe they just as a test way they can iterate it quickly. Features. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close. We're going to get through these chunks, though. Features. Gameplay. US gameplay features spent... no, that was all VFX, I think. No, that was features, vehicles. US gameplay features spent the better part of July. Sorry, Janos. Polishing features through Alpha 3.14 and planning for future initiatives. The former including work on Knickknacks, the player asset management on Mobiglass app. Knickknacks. As the feature's functionality nears completion, the team conducted feedback and revision sessions to begin finalizing the look and feel of the app. They'll wrap up development with the end of the quarter by aiming to launch Knickknacks at Alpha 3.15. Cool. Gameplay features are also continued to focus on latest dynamic event, Ninetales Lockdown, working alongside QA and player experience to gather feedback and refine it before release. For future initiatives, the designers at the environment team began setting up new shops at Orison and plan to the expo hall set up for IAE 2951. Meanwhile, the engineers worked on TDDs for the cargo refactor and character archetype editor, both of which will reach the review stage soon. That's good. That means that they're working on it. They just need to review it to make sure everything's up to par before they continue forward. So, good sign. The European team, gameplay feature team began finalizing the first iteration of loot generation system. Once live, they'll look for feedback from the community for future improvements and balancing. Be interesting to see that. Features, characters, and weapons. The features team continued to working on the new player inventory system with daily reviews and the user experience. There's a lot of hard choices being made on what to make in the first release and what can be postponed. Even with some aspects of the inventory coming online later, the new player inventory is shaping up to be a significant improvement from the existing PMA. A warm bucket of piss is a better improvement from the current PMA. I'm sorry, the current system in the Mobiglass sucks. The current Mobiglass sucks. I don't care if really dangerous people like it. It sucks. It needs to improve. Since we're going through this, I like to go through this on the office hours because it helps get some context for some of these things. Key aspects for the new player inventory differ significantly compared to the PMA is the limit to physical space and location. Trying to be excited. No, I mean a new like that's a good thing. The current system sucks. The system they're using is going to improve upon it. By simply not being the current system, it's going to be an improvement. Okay, a key aspect for where the new player inventory differs significantly compared to the PMA is the limit to physical space and location. While the various landing zones will have generous amount of storage available to the player, anything left on location cannot be accessed from another. So the player will need to make sure that they transfer any items they need when exploring onto their backpack or vehicle. Items purchased from shops will also be delivered to local storage. That's cool. On technical side, there was a push to solve NPCs standing on chairs and benches. Again, brackets. Simply put, if an AI is in the process of exiting their usable as they stream out, they will now teleport to the position they would have exited to when they stream back in. Awesome. So that was some of the issues, is that they were being streamed out and streamed back in. Star map. Yeah. There are some major aspects of every game that need to be focused on. UI, sound, and gameplay. Those are the three things that matter the most. I mean, gameplay is more nebulous, but like the feel of a game. But UI and sound are often the ones, and and music, for instance, are often the ones that get hurt the worst, get hit the most. Not many people go into video games to design UIs. It's not exactly the sexy thing to do, but it's very important, especially usable, functional UI, and not like the god-awful mess that is traditional MMO UI or, survival game UIs. Nesting into nesting drives me crazy. 1,000 different different pop-ups. All right. I think that was it. Yeah. We're going to the engine. All right. So what I'm about to read is basically Greek. And if you're Greek, unless you're drunk and upside down and currently, chanting the alphabet backwards, this will also make no sense to you. So, or saying the alphabet backwards. All right. In June, the physics team finished support for compressed meshes. This means the representation of a renderer mesh inside physics is now compressed, leading to memory and bandwidth savings. More code, such as preparation for vortex positions and normals for planetary patches, was also moved from C++ to ISPC to allow for faster processing on the CPU. Further optimizations include pre-allocating mesh blocks to avoid stalls during an on-demand allocation, catching the current grid of vehicles to prevent stalls in physics, optimized binding of secondary node data during CGF loading, and a new round of terrain mesh generation improvements. Additionally, the set of analytical SDF primitives supported by physics was extended, and Torus added. I know some of those words. For the renderer, the team included the translation to Gen 12. That's good. Or continued the transition to Gen 12. That's good. A lot of work has completed on the global draw packet cache and related changes on the high-level renderer and 3D engine code, which will be used to speed up the streaming in of an object containers and sharing of data from multiple instances. Additionally, Gen 12 received the following changes: support for referencing refraction during rendering, tessellation support in gbuffer pass, and a ported Z prepass. Several pieces of legacy code were removed to simplify the render pipeline. Also, Gen 12 now runs with async shader compilation enabled by default. This is mostly relevant for the development, but also useful for shipping builds, as the shader cache isn't fully deterministic yet, and the compilation of infrequently used shaders can happen in PU. All right. Sanity is for the weak. Sanity plus 100, mine 1 per 100 after that. Yeah. Sound, AI, gameplay. Yeah, I think sound is likely the most important thing, because it's the most. It's you could have gameplay of just sound and still have a pretty interesting experience. Then UI, and then the actual gameplay. If you nail the UI and the sound, the gameplay can be all right, and having decent gameplay with really good sound and UI will make a game much better than it should be. Question: do you think the new physics grid tech for H711 series, or for the whole series, would be used by the Reclaimer and Crusader? I don't know what you're saying there, Max. I can feel the warp taking me. It's a good pain. Yes. All right. So, I don't know what this means, other than they're allocating stuff to the CPU. They're trying to kind of make things a little bit better. This is obviously Gen 12 work, which is trying to simplify things, make things run better. Volumetric clouds and atmospheric rendering saw improvements throughout July, as well as continued research for Alpha 3.14. Several performance improvements were implemented when rendering clouds into cube maps. For example, runtime cube maps that are used for ambient lighting around the player. Density queries now also include the cloud's tint and the requested location, which is important for seamless integration of particles into cloud volumes. Cloud shaping was changed slightly to improve the local versus global read, particularly with regards to combating the occasional tiled look of cloud details when viewed from orbit. For rendering performance, the entire filter chain that reprojects and upsamples ray marching results in being revisited is being revisited to improve quality so that this performance mode can always be enabled. The PU currently ray marches either at full resolution, which is very taxing, or simple form lower resolution ray marching, which leaves a lot to be desired in terms of quality versus gain performance. Lastly, the work on SDF integration into ray marcher efficient empty space skipping is still ongoing. There we go. That's basically that's kind of goes on to the volumetric clouds. The reason why you have like the kind of weird popping in and kind of fuzzy clouds that you see at a distance is because they're trying to use SDF technology to help smooth that out so it doesn't look as bad. On the core engine side, work continued with the on Entity Component Update Scheduler, ECUS. Its internal structure was revised to allow more than one update within a pass. Several improvements were also made to support and improve new profiler front end that was introduced in June. For instance, CPU sampling support was added for Linux builds of the server. Moreover, several tree optimizations were made inside StarHash. Okay, that's good. Community team. July with the finale of Show Us Your Colors campaign, putting on selection for putting in gallery. Adding to the cosplay contest announced in June, they kicked off a video contest, the winners of which will be part of this year's CitizenCon show. Community also continued to update Star Citizen public roadmap, including notable additions for Q3 scheduler, downstream development teams, and look further into what's coming 3.17. The lead up to the release of Alpha 3.14, a series of patch watch posts were shared on Spectrum, highlighting some of the specific ship changes and tuning that was going into the latest update. Additionally, a postmortem for Alpha 3.13 and Invictus Launch Week 2951 was published, highlighting what went well and what didn't and what could be improved in the future. It's great. We're almost there, chat. We're almost there. Oh, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 more to go. We're almost there. And some of these are pretty small. A crusher. A big area where scraps transformed into crush in the reclaimer. Yeah, it's crusher makes sense. I don't know. I think he means hull tech. I think the similar technology that's used for like removing components from, or moving like what are they called? Containers from a whole series. They may have something to do with salvage, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that question. Like you're asking if the same technology for the whole series goes into the same technology for the reclaimer, and I don't know. It feels like they're two different things, but. The auto team began in July working on Grimhex's Medical Center, which received effects and music passes to help compound the run-down aesthetic. I've got the perfect... Here you go.
Now calling number 42. Number 42, the doctor will see you now.
I'll send you $70 to get a stream deck and put this music on the first button. It's royalty free. Any Final Fantasy game. Next available representative. If I heard that in Grimhex, I would die laughing. The Render aesthetic, they also added effects to the A2 Starliner, including onboard kitchen. Nice. Dialogue team recorded a VO and are currently preparing to go in game. Thank you, Buster, for that raid. Welcome, everyone, from Buster Stream. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space partner at the Astropub. Welcome to the office hours where we talk about Star Citizen, and you can ask questions and such. How's your stream there, Buster? Warning, warning, raid, yes. I like it, Rainless. I like it. Now that Buster is free from Twitter jail. I was playing a power washing game. It was so nice. I love that game forever now. Hey, Pickleskin. We're talking about we're going over the monthly report. So sit down and listen. We just found out that by the way, let me put it up. We found the perfect song for so we found out that they're doing a new like music playing for Grimhex's hospital. So I figured this would be the perfect Can you imagine sitting there with a bloodshot arm, being surrounded by the dank, disgusting drudge rundown of Grimhex, waiting to get served?
All right, number 42, you're next. Doctor will see you. You jackass. Don't bleed on my fucking floor.
Technical sound design team made improvements in dogfighting ship weapons. When live, players will hear weapons from a greater distance, and the battles themselves will sound more intense. Nice. Which will be most notable in Marine Commander. They also fixed bugs for Orison. Work on Orison score continued with composer Pedro Camacho, having had great results from the planetary industrial platform pieces. They've been looking to complete the location with a final place for the spaceport. The spaceport also received ambiances, as did the wind sculpture. Audio is now created, also created sound for the RSI Constellation Taurus trailer. What? There's a Taurus commercial? That's news. I'm just sitting there with a broken arm and a Vandal is just looking super pissed off in the chair next to you, like you're inconveniencing him. Yes. Or yeah, Rex is the only. Don't worry, there's no drugs for anymore, so we can't get you addicted because I used them all last night. Let's go. I don't have a medical degree, but I have a lot of stimulants in me and a lot of willpower. I love finding a good dirty spot with power washing. It's cathartic. Yeah, I like doing that kind of stuff. I know what you're talking about. I get the feeling. All right, ships. U.S.-based ship team began this month preparing for the Constellation Tours for release, also resolving bugs affecting various ships across the fleet. Alongside release prep, ships pushed other vehicles through the pipeline, including the Crusader Ares variants, which entered the final art stages. The Drake Vulture continued its progress through the white box phase with an all-new vehicle entered the pipeline, and an upcoming variant mentioned last month's report moved into gray box. In the UK's last month's yet-to-be-announced ship had its damaged LODs and final art completed, with the team currently wrapping up finishing touches before handing it over to tech art and downstream teams. The Redeemer received its exterior damage measures in final polish pass. The team currently working on exterior LODs, while the interior is going through its final art pass with cockpit holes, cockpit turrets, and lower level nearing completion. A new yet-to-be-announced ship that the team is excited to share moved from white box to gray box, while the Saber's cockpit and lighting were wrapped up for its gold standard. For the Retaliator, the first round of interior gold standard work is coming to a close, with the interior spaces collected from metric and AI navigation. New ship item components were added to the cockpit, and the cockpit received a pass too. This is not the Retaliator. This is the Redeemer. It says right here in the bottom right, Aegis Redeemer. So this is what the flying trash can looks like. And I gotta say, I like the aesthetic because I think it makes the Redeemer old. This doesn't look like a new ship. This looks like an old ship. This looks like something you'd see in the inside of a Hind. A more of a Russian-style attack helicopter. And I get that's what they're trying to go for in general, but it also makes it look like a 70s spaceship. You know, like the inside of a Soyuz. Which gives it more of a retro vibe as well. So if this is supposed to be new, it doesn't look new, which would be interesting. We don't know a lot about the lore of the Redeemer yet, but because we've reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, huzzah! I will be doing a Redeemer video at some point, but they just don't have any lore out for it yet. So it will come, chat. It'll come. The flying trash can fire will get its day in court. Another unannounced ship is deep into gray box phase. With some issues with its exterior mechanisms now resolved, it's moving through the pipeline well. There's a number of artists working together on this one, and each of the area ship's interior is coming along nicely. Finally, work began on a new fuel arm for the MISC Starfarer to support the refueling feature. Work coming soon. Nice. All right, so we've got just these three, and then we're done. Even in 2951, communism and the Soviet Union are still going strong. Pretty well established that now that Aegis is in high-tech manufacturing. No, they're not, but the Redeemer, at least according to its lore, according to its creators originally, was a new ship, was one of the first ships that Aegis produced post-Mezzer era.
But that may not be the case. Redeemer hate is now meme-fueled and unsupported. It's always been meme-fueled. I don't know what you're talking about. It's very much supported. I hate it. I will always hate it. All right, July saw the environmental art team continuing to polish Pyro's planets and moons in the expected quality standards. In Montreal, the team progressed with the gray box phases for the rest stop and Grimhex medical clinics. Devs now walk into both locations and experience the correct mood, volumes, and flow. The rest of the stop clinics were ideal opportunity to start working on module-based location, which involves covering many rest stops with a restricted library of medical modules. Cool, so like a clinic. Area 18 and Lorville's hospitals are approaching white box complete. These locations are much larger in scope and require adaptation and revising to ensure they live up to the potential. As the scope of these is closer to those of New Babbage and Orison, we want to make sure that the volumes and general feeling of the areas are spot on before moving on to the detail pass. On the design side, the team has further supported hospitals by ensuring the flow is fully operational and populating the locations with AI. In parallel, they iterated the creation and placement of the derelict spaceship puzzles mentioned in last month's report. These puzzles will ultimately be scattered across the planets and space and will represent minor points of interest. They're currently in the proof of concept phase, with the team investigating various future opportunities, as long as there's more than one. Art characters. July saw character art progress with new in-shop armor and subscriber armor helmets. The team began designing cybernetic and wrapped up new outfits for shopkeepers. Hello, mention of cybernetics. And wrapped up new outfits for shopkeepers and inhabitants of Pyro. The latter which will be passed on to the character art team. Alongside work on characters, tech art supported actor features, delivering a medical gown asset to the medical skeleton. Booty gown! They also supported UI with shader R&D and provided exports of all character aspects and supported physical inventory UI. The backpacks mentioned in previous reports were completed too, including ensuring they appear correctly on characters and in shops. Nice. I can see this music playing in Grimhex Hospital as some dude, Cow Skull, sits there worried about his bud. Yes, I'm not a doctor, but I stayed in Grimhex Hospital last night. Exactly. All right, animation. Throughout July, the animation team looked at the usables used throughout the PU and how they're laid out. They created track view based previs videos showing existing assets used in better ways, such as using the rail leaning at the bar counter, created poses for usables that don't already exist, such as beatdowns in prison. Okay. And drove the visual feel of the AI layout in certain areas. So far, this has been completed for the prisons, medical locations, shanty towns, Kasaba stores, and G-Lock. The goal is to meld the animation and design principles together to lay out existing and new animations in a way that simulates how humans behave. Nice. Nice. Elizabeth Annie, thanks for that subscription. The flying track end will have its day in court. I don't know if I can trust the kangaroo court or show trial that would take place there. Maybe I'm just dense and I haven't seen it before, but I think 314 was very mild but semi-realistic blood splatter. Notice it on the walls when shooting AI Korea. That might be true. That might be a thing. And that is the monthly report. Overall, it seems like we're getting more AI-based stuff. Things like AI is participating with players, doing group activities. We're getting a lot of updates to Gen 12 renderer. We've got a fuck ton of ships that are coming out soon. At least a variant and 2 new ships are coming out, which haven't been announced. Plus the overhaul of the Retaliator and the Saber. Plus the Redeemer, which is coming out. The Sci-7 bearing weapons, and the bombs. New audio teams, including the best and only CIG, please. Grimhex's hospital waiting room, please. Have some humor. And if you just tweaked it so it just like it kind of like skips a little bit every so often, or is like kind of modular, just has a little bit of a modular base to it. Mwah. Just imagine a bunch of grungy pirates sitting in a waiting room, waiting to get seen so they can have surgery to remove a bullet from their skull. With a very cantankerous, very high doctor looking to treat them. Yeah. Like it's from the Green Imperial days that no one knows how to deal with. Doctor. Because it would also be unnerving. It would also be unnerving to hear that, like with a slight off, like just pitch it slightly off, or give it a little bit of a warble in it, as if it's like out of some really bad speakers. And you know, it would really set the tone. Surgeon on call today, Grimhex, Dr. UB Crokin. Like the speakers are shitty. Yeah. Like it's giving the aesthetic of, we know what a hospital is supposed to be, but we're fucking Grimhex. We don't give a shit what a hospital actually is. We just want to make the normies feel less ostracized. Lots of static, yeah. So yeah, and cybernetics were mentioned. There's a couple of mentions in there of things we hadn't seen before, or we had only heard about before. So that may just be for Pyro NPCs, but cybernetics nonetheless. Because up to this point, cybernetics have been bespoke for very specific characters. This sounds like it's going to be more generic for characters, which may also mean porting over to players. Grimhex Hospital. Picture the waiting room from Beetlejuice. Basically, yeah. How do I find more images on the Xi'an city? Look up the TAL system, TAL system, to find those images for the Xi'an city. They should, if you Star Citizen tools should have those, but you can also look it up at they did a system overview with Star Citizen. So Google Star Citizen TAL system. I should pull it up. But the people at Grimhex say they're not pirates. They're not pirates. I don't know what you're talking about. They just live outside the law. That's all. Half step down or play it in a song in a flat key should be creepy enough. Yeah, you don't necessarily want it to be super creepy, but you want it to be unnerving. Like, if you heard that song playing in an empty mall that was abandoned, you would super be creeped out. Like an abandoned mall with that playing in the background, you'd go, what? Same kind of vibe, you know? Liminal spaces. That liminal space vibe. The creepiness is the empty space that should be filled with people, combined with the music, which is designed for being inviting. But if it's abandoned, not just empty but abandoned, like run down. And I think that's, if you look at Grimhex, even where they're going to do the hospital stuff like that, I think having it be with minimal people with that song playing, but with everything run down, adds a little bit to the uncertainty factor. Like, again, like it's playing because this is what normal people should be hearing in a hospital, in a waiting room, but this isn't a normal hospital or waiting room. So. No, I mean, I like a full sound effect of like buzzsaws playing and people screaming in the background, being like, ah, as they're getting surgery from like unmedicated buzzsaw, unmedicated like bone saws going at them. Do I think cybernetics will provide buff / nerf stats to your character in comparison to getting a new clone body? I would bet that they give you some nerf stats, but they give you more life, as it sounds, if it makes sense. Basically, you'll take a hit by having a cybernetic arms or legs, but you also won't have to get a brand new body to get it back. And you could also get in my mind, what you do is you'd have a cybernetic arm, which is got some advantages but disadvantages. Like its advantage is it can, you can do more melee damage or something like that. It hits harder. But the disadvantage of it is it's more vulnerable to EMPs, or it requires maintenance, something that like you have to pay money for it to exist. And that's the cheap replacement option. You lose your arm, you get a cheap cybernetic. Or you can get a more advanced cybernetic, which won't require as much maintenance, but will be more won't require as much maintenance, but will be more expensive to maintain. Or you can get a vat-grown arm to replace your arm, but it's the most expensive, and so you don't have to do replacement costs, but the upfront cost is high. So you give you some options there. So you either go with cheap, but you have to constantly upkeep it, more expensive, but the upkeep which has less upkeep, but it's more over, like the lump sum is higher for upkeep, but it's still lower than the biological replacement. Or you get the biological replacement, which is doesn't require any upkeep, but has a high upfront cost. So did Soul just raid in? I just saw that. I'm sorry. I'm solely in my own things. How you guys doing from Soul Citizens? Thank you, Soul Citizens. How y'all doing? I see you now, Soul. I was talking about, you got me, the chat got me into discussion of medical. Because we just did a run through of the what is it called? We did a run through of the monthly report, and in the monthly report, they talked about cybernetics. They started to work on cybernetics. Now, it was close to a reference of NPCs for Pyro, so it may be that we're going to see cybernetics for NPCs for Pyro, which is good because up to now the cybernetics have been bespoke to like mission givers, so being more generic will work. But it could also mean that we get cybernetics in the future. Thanks, Souls. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, even cybernetics and NPCs would be good. I could see you growing a new limb costing the same as much as a small ship. Yeah, it could definitely be expensive, but it also reduces your, having to replace an arm rather than having to go with a brand new clone. Like the cheaper option would be getting a new clone. Your arm is useless, just get a new clone. But that is going to cost you because you only have so many clones. Because, again, CIG wants to make choice matter, especially when it comes to health. Hey, Fastcard, how you doing, buddy? Can we get some shots and cheers in chat for Soul Citizens as well? And for Buster? And can we get a follow command for Soul Citizens and Buster? You should be following both of them. Bush of them. It's a minor, yes, Zeres. I know it's a minor mention, but it's a that's the thing that like that monthly reports do. They often will say give you these minor mentions and things, and then 6 months later they have a full breakdown of this brand new mechanic that they're working on. Like they do that a lot because that's why you got to read the monthly reports. Because if you're really like interested or even concerned about development, looking at the monthly reports will give you a much better understanding of what they're doing and where they are. For instance, they're very fucking close to inventory management. Inventory management is probably going to be in the game in 3.15 at the very earliest. More than likely, like if it slips from 3.15, it'll probably come in 3.16. Same for medical. There's just so many mentions of medical and medical locations and medical gameplay, all these sorts of things. It's obvious that that's going to get done. Did you see anything mentioned about salvage in that? No. There was not a single mention of salvage in the monthly report. Salvage is not being worked on. Or if it is, it's so minor they haven't even mentioned it. So there's no point in thinking that salvage is coming in 3.16. That's just the reality. If they're not working on it right now, the team that would be working on it right now should be starting it either this month or next month. Especially if we don't see any mentions of salvage at all in August, the August monthly report, don't even fucking bet on it. The only thing they mentioned was the Vulture. That was the only one that was mentioned. But I believe the Vulture's not coming out until 3.17. So. I don't know what you're talking about, Paul, but I disagree because I can, and even if I don't have the facts, I can correct it. So I'll take that. Hey, Doc Demon. We were just saying that there was no mention of salvage in the monthly report we just went over, which is a good way of saying salvage is there's no way salvage is coming in 3.16. They haven't talked about it. If they're not talking about it in the monthly report, it means they're not working on it. And if they're not working on it, it's not going to get done. Especially since it's coming out in 3.16, which is the 2-month patch, where like 3.15 will be out end of October, early November. And then there'll be a 0.1 patch for IAE, and then from there on, the last patch is going to be released at the end of the month, and IAE is the beginning of November, which means less than a month to go from 3.15 to 3.16. There's no fucking way anything in 3.16 is going to make it. You would hope that salvage is happening in concert with the Vulture. Yes, but they could also do hand mining without the Vulture. Or hand salvage without the Vulture. I wouldn't be surprised if 3.15 doesn't make it go into PTU until CitizenCon, which is October 5th, I want to say. So, and then it usually goes into about 2 weeks to a month. So even if it's 2 weeks, then we're releasing in late October, around Halloween. And then IAE is 2 weeks later from that. It's like the second week of November, or first or second week of November is the start of it, which usually gets its own patch. So 3.15 has to be out by IAE. That's what it has to be. Like they have to release it by IAE no matter what. And then, even then, IAE releases, that's 2 weeks, or a week, so you're looking mid-November till the end of that week. And they have to push the patch before the end of December, before the week before Christmas, which means they have like 6 weeks to go from patch, PTU, Evocati, PTU release. They've spent a month in PTU for 3.14. There's no fucking way anything in 3.16 is making it. That's you just got to look at it. It's not a matter of can CIG do it or not. It's a matter of they don't have time to do it. It's physically impossible. Like it's not even like a shitting on CIG. It's just no one could do that. A major gameplay feature that's going to work well, that they, especially with the standards that CIG have, in 6 weeks. No way. That's not how it works, Shadow. They'll release it around CitizenCon, and IAEs they'll have it released around IAE no matter what, which is early November. There's a reason why, like Q2 was released in last year was released in early August too. The Q2 patch was released in early August. Summer just fucks them because people take vacations. They have kids, go back to school. There's so many other like things that go on in people's lives in the summer, so it's hard to really bear down a lot of those things. And then all hands on deck for CitizenCon, and you also have a patch that you have to release around CitizenCon as well, and it's the biggest patch of the year, and it is going to be the biggest patch of the year because of inventory and medical. But because it's the biggest patch of the year, it's going to take them longer. So yeah, Q4 doesn't exist. New excuse to slow down development. No. It's just the realities. The reality is like, I know it feels like CIG is now suddenly dragging it out further, but they're about on track where they've been in the last 3 years of releasing Q2. The patch is supposed to be at the end of June, ends up in the middle of August. End of July, middle of August. CIG, I personally would like CIG to go to 3 quarters a year, 3 patches a year. One for, beginning of spring, like a spring, summer, and fall patch, or spring, summer, and winter patch. Because they do this to themselves every year. They get to the last part of the year, and they've got a fucking month to pump out a patch, and it's filled with all the leftover scrap that they couldn't get done with the previous patches. So anything that's scheduled for the end of the year, like for instance, when we start finding out what's in the end of the year patch for next year, which will be sometime around late December, early January of next year, we can already guarantee that everything that's in that later patch is going to get fucking yeeted into 2023, because there's no point. If CIG limited the number of patches they actually produced, we might see some of that stuff. But yeah, 4 patches a year is too ambitious because of the nature of their scheduling, A, and B, because of just, CitizenCon. I disagree that salvage is going to get pushed again. I think it'll get pushed probably to the mid, or probably get pushed until mid to the summer patch, or possibly the CitizenCon patch of next year. But I don't think it's going to get pushed any further. CIG is developing resources for salvage, like the Vulture, and it's on the progress tracker that they have planned for scheduling for working on it. It's the first time we've actually seen them working on it and working on peripherals. But it's just it's harsh for people because it keeps getting kicked down the road, and so every time they see it get kicked down, they go, CIG's never going to get rid of it. It's just never going to make it, and it's not going to happen because people get PTSD from the damn thing. Yeah, 4 patches is just too much for them. They always end up having to pull resources from one patch and hurts each other. Yeah, but Paul, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that they don't work on quarter sprints but offset 6-month sprints. So basically 2 halves of the company are subsequent patches in parallel. That may be true, but again, I'm going to have to reiterate, QA is not infinite. And when shit breaks, like 3.14, or when they have to really bear down on something because they're really trying to fix something, like desync, guess who gets pulled into fixing the problems? The teams that were working on the other things that were supposed to be done for future patches, which delays that future patch. I've said from the very beginning that the whole purpose of staggered development has nothing to do with bringing out content faster. It has everything to do with keeping burnout to a minimum, to keep people from having to push for 3 months on something that basically working on something for 1 month that they're supposed to have for 3 months. Now they have 3 months to work on something that they had for 6 months because of all the other bullshit that goes around. So it increases the amount of time they have a chance to work on it. It allows them to take breaks. It allows them to go off and see their daughters and sons and wives and husbands. It allows them to take vacations and not have to, burn their on both ends of the aisle. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And we've also seen that the content that they're releasing is a lot more, not like patch to patch, but the stuff they're working on is a lot more reliable. I think this year we'll probably have the most amount of stuff. Previous years we've had like maybe 30% of CIG's like predicted stuff at the beginning of the year actually coming out. I think this year we're probably going to get more like 40 to 50% of what CIG wanted to come out to actually come out in a year, which is an increase. It's good, and it will increase over time as they get better at these sorts of things. But the reality is that I think that 4 quarters is a bad idea. The 4-quarter patch cycle is stupid. What they need to do is plan to have either 1 or 2 patches a year that's just nothing but go in and tech debt, fix bugs, tech debt, do not add any new shit. And then 2 patches or 1 patch a year that's just content dump. I don't think salvage is coming until vehicle teams get physicalized damage going. Once you can get target repair subcomponents and need something salvage to salvage. Nightcop, they don't need to have ships in verse working. They don't need to have ships blow up and you salvage them for them to do that. The first iteration of mining, you couldn't mine asteroids. You could only mine on the planet. I would 100% believe that the first iteration of salvage is just salvage the wrecks that already exist in Star Citizen. It's not that hard because they could already have that stuff prepared for salvaging to happen. And eventually as those things go forward, because what they really need is persistence to exist. That's what you need to have salvage function properly. Like they're probably working on both in tandem, but I don't see it. We'll see in traction for more ships come up into gold standard. We start seeing in the monthly reports. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the end of next year. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see salvage in October, November of 2022. Yeah, exactly. The hand tool. So, and if CIG, the way CIG works is if it's done, they can, and it's able to be put in the game, they'll throw it in the fucking game because it's done and they want to move on. And then they iterate on that once they get the base tools done. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if 3.16, they did get some of the back end stuff done for salvage and didn't get anything else in. And then, 317 ends up getting pushed on to 318. I wouldn't be surprised, let me put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if Salvage came out in the summer of next year. But I'd be more guessing it's come out in the fall of next year. And by that time, you have a lot of other things that could have happened, including physicalized damage, including better inventory systems, full persistence, the cargo refactor that they've been working on that allows you to be able to actually move stuff, back-end quanta working better. Like, I'm not even going to try to predict. I get it, Fizzle. I get it. I think the biggest difference between salvage and mining is that salvage isn't one thing. It's a combination of a lot of different systems. So you can take things apart, carry, store them, items, and a lot more. It'll take time. Yeah. Oh, no, refueling is definitely going to come into the game before salvage. Refueling is already in the game. Like, refueling already exists in terms of just making one number go from 0 to full to whatever number it is in the fuel tank. The problem with refueling was the collection and refining of materials and the distribution of it, how like docking, and the collection refining already exists. It's in the game. Docking's in the game, so it's just collection. You just put all those things together and boom. That's why we're starting to see it on ISC. Salvage is obviously Schrodinger's game system. Well, salvage needs repair. When we start seeing more stuff allocated towards repair, which I assume will happen after refueling, then we'll start to see more traction towards salvage. But yeah, that's what I meant. Collection, refining, and distribution. Those are the 3 things you need, and 2 of those are done. The collection's not, but collection sort of is. Refueling needs a purpose/reason more than anything, aka pyro. I could see it also being used as a. Plenty of people will jump around and get themselves stuck. Yeah. Yes, refueling is docking. Exactly. Yeah. I thought they would have fuel boom on each side of the Starfarer. No, it's just a single fuel boom. Do you think they'll add Arena Commander racing to the verse at some point? They have the racetrack at Grimhex, which is supposed to be a thing at some point. I think there's a couple of big issues that are slowing some of those things down, which are mostly server based. Like, they need to have everything they can to make servers more improve performance. The new renderers coming in, things being moved off to the iCache service or the Super Pcache service, persistence. They need server meshing. They need things to improve the performance of servers. Do I think the PU drops tomorrow? I'm trying to decide whether to hold on mining and unequipped ship components. I would definitely unequip your ship components. If you're going, I'd go mining, but then I'd just unequip your ship components before you get off. That's what I do. I wouldn't be surprised if it dropped tomorrow, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. Do I think the PU? Oh yeah. Refueling would already be useful since you can have a Starfarer along the support fighter units where you're doing bounty hunting, so they don't have to go back and land. Exactly. Or you can have Starfarer parked in an area where you can go refuel and go back over there. So. Question, odd one. But do you think we're going to go a route where your ship is sort of comm relay, something like having an emergency broadcast because inevitably people are still going to be taking down common relays. Yeah, that's what the Star Runner, but mostly the Herald can do. You got to remember that there are plenty of systems that don't have comm relays. So the Star Citizen universe has essentially, I'll call them 3 tiers. You have civilized, developing, and undeveloped. Civilized space has plenty of infrastructure. They have stations that are crewed by people. You can get fuel and food and a bed if you need to, a hangar to hang out in. They have comm systems that allow you to connect to all over the systems, or even all over the system, or other systems even. Infrastructure. They have the infrastructure to support large numbers of people. Developing systems are the ones that are on the frontier that may have comm relays or may have a couple of stations, but they don't support the entire system yet. You might have some limited access to outside the system, but not much. And then you've got undeveloped or underdeveloped systems like Pyro and Nyx, where they never really built any infrastructure, and so you have to rely on what you can bring with you. More systems are underdeveloped or developing than there are civilized systems. The developed systems are rare. There's probably 6 or 7 developed systems in the game for UEE. Most of them are developing or underdeveloped. So yes, things like the Herald would be very effective or be very, very popular. The other reason why that works in terms of gameplay is it allows for players to be the developers, the people who come in and actually create the infrastructure and do the jobs that the NPCs would normally do. Yeah, that's where data mining comes in, or data running comes in. But yes, ships will always be limited in terms of their comm range compared to a dedicated station. But yeah, I could definitely see players end up being an emergency relay beacon, or basically being able to say, being paid to stay over here for 20 minutes. Take your ship, your Herald, and go over here for 20 minutes and just pass relays, passing messages back and forth. Play a little Papers, Please kind of thing. What you pass, what you don't pass, as a gameplay mechanic for data running, just because it works. What are the civilized systems? Terra, Ellis, Green is the planet Ellis. Nemo, Sol. I'm trying to think of the other ones. I think that might be it. There's a couple of other ones. Croshaw, Stanton, Keel. Yeah, massive comm arrays exist, yes. Killian, I'd have to see. I think it's probably developing more than anything, but I'll look it up. This is my personal my personal ratings for these things, not necessarily the official ratings. Yes, Killian. Killian as well. Not necessarily because it's a developed system, but because Killian is the massive center of the UEE military. So it has a lot of infrastructure to support it. But I like that Red Dwarf reference. There is zero-G football. It's called Sadaball. It's zero-G Australian rules football. Stanton is super civilized.
Even civilized systems will have outlaw hubs. In fact, most civilized systems, developed systems, will have outlaw hubs. Not really. Bremen is not really developed. It's probably more like developing. Bremen is a breadbasket, but it doesn't, and it has like comma-rays, but it doesn't have much else. It's actually quite a big place for outlaws and a huge place for anti-Mez. It was a huge place for anti-Mezer activity, and there's actually a lot of self-sufficiency going on. Like people are becoming less reliant on Bremen, so Bremen's businesses are starting to tone down, which is why. What's his name? Consolidated Outland's CEO. I'm blanking on his name, but the reason why he's starting Consolidated Outland is because he wants to bring jobs back to Bremen. Silas Kerner, thank you. Yeah, Kerner is a very old family that has controlled massive land holdings in Bremen since its founding. Silas Corndog. Yeah. The new scan system apparently downloads full component weapon shield data on the target, which are more crucial for future BHs with new 314 combat changes. Heralds, MSR, and even stealth crafts can now pull info on a target and then jump away and tell you what an NPC is packing before you load out, collect that bounty. Going to be crucial for hunts in all systems with little or no support. Exactly. Crime hubs have been very popular. Just could be further out into empty areas in the system. So long jump lines back and forth. Exactly. Yeah. Like for instance, there is a well-known underground activity in the Croshaw system. It's one of the hubs of syndicate and gang activity, but you're probably not gonna see a lot of piracy. So you'll likely get jumped on the street or mugged or, find some shady place to lay low, but you probably won't get attacked by pirates. Bremen is that kind of place. Like you likely run into a smuggler. You might run into a, it actually probably has more pirates than you think. A lot of outlaws and that kind of thing. Bremen is much more active, but it's not pyro. It's not Nyx, where it's like, fuck you, we do what we want kind of thing. It's not Cathcart. It's not Nexus. It's not Null. These are places that are completely lawless. But you run you run into some pirates every so often. So Bremen is South Bronx in the 80s. Yeah, it's Texas in the 1870s. Texas and Oklahoma in the 1870s. More or less cities exist. There's railroad lines and telegraph, and people can work in jobs, even in factories. But there's still a lot of prairie and still a lot of people living out in the bumfuck nowhere, doing bad shit to each other. Might ride into town and steal stuff and shoot up the place. Not guaranteed. I imagine outlaw stations and systems would be more your beginner criminal stuff, basically smuggling and stuff. Your low man doing grunt work for the new job. Who cares if you get arrested? Yeah. And built up systems. Yeah. All right, y'all. I am way over my time limit, but we got a bunch of raids, so I wanted to kind of hang out a little bit longer as people ask questions and such. Thank you all for watching. Remember, this week we're going to be moving on to tomorrow. We'll be doing group gameplay. So if you want to come join us for some group gameplay, either in the live PU if 314 is released, or in PTU, we'll be hanging out, crewing big ships like the Hammerhead and the Gladiator and such, and we'll be going from there to
Just kind of hang out for a couple hours. On Saturday, we'll be doing a little bit more of that before the Star Citizen, before Captain's Table. This Captain's Table this week is going to be a new face. I'm trying to get his name properly right. I'm going to screw it up. He's full. Abdi Johan. Abdi Johan. He's watches the stream a lot. He watches YouTube. He comments a lot on the YouTubes and stuff as well. I probably might even be in chat now. He's going to be on, and we're also going to have Fastcart from Soul Citizens will be on as well. So it'll be an interesting group. I think we'll talk a little bit about what we see in the ISC and the monthly report. I haven't fully got the stuff down yet, like the idea, but like what we're going to be talking about, but we'll see. You do need to get back onto the Captain's Table, Buster. It's been a year, yeah. I might be able to get you on with Loken, but we'll see. I gotta there's some I want to get Loken on next week, but Fist and Jawa want to come on, but they also want to bring on another person as well. So it's like I can move them around or something like that. Did I draw the Taurus? I didn't. Let me draw the Taurus right now. We'll do that and then we'll end it. Because that ended at the very beginning of the stream. All right. The winner is... I have his full name, but I'm not going to say his full name. Oh, Sir Mr. Penguin. Congratulations, Sir Mr. Penguin. Let me tap that out in there. I don't know if you're here or not, but I'll definitely do it in the Can't spell it for the life of me, but there we go. Yeah. Oh, that makes a make sure over there. Great, great discussion, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for coming on, Coffee. I am still so tired. I didn't help that I stayed up till 1 a.m. finishing this guy up, but can't see it because of the green screen. But I also. I'm still recovering from all that fucking New World stuff. There you are, Sir Mr. Penguin. I have your email here. Just send me a message on Twitter or whatever, Twitch or on Discord if you with what email you want me to send it to, because I'm sure that email you sent me is not the one you want to use. Could be though. Send it to me. Yeah. All right, guys. I will tell you what we are giving away next month. Next time we come back on Friday, we'll have the new one up for August. And yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, Ex Historia and Astra.